Hey, folks. What's going on? Okay, so we've got the Legendary Lords tournament going on today, which is going to be really fun. It is going to be set up and structured in a way that people are getting to pick their faction or specific lord they want to try and play. Here we go. Hold on one second. Let me actually bring this up. Here we go. This is where the rule set lies. On what units you have to bring as a prerequisite with these characters. So you can see, like, the High Elves have to have 3 Sisters of Avalorn, which is absolutely crazy, and a Handmaiden of the Everqueen, which is a character you literally never see. I've actually played around with I've actually played with that character a little bit on ladder. It's kind of an interesting unit. I don't know how good they are, really. I've had some games where they've gotten some ridiculous value, but they were both games that I lost. So I don't really know what the meta is going to look like, but there's a few Legendary Lords that do seemingly have slightly easier options, like Skulltaker here. Skulltaker with 3 Bloodletters is already, honestly, kind of strong. And then you've got Scarbrand here, who's spending like $1 bazillion on Blood Crushers, who are kind of mediocre. So we'll see how this ends up shaking out. I haven't familiarized myself with all of them, but those were some of the highlights. Oxyotl is exactly what you would expect. Just 4 Chameleon Skinks, or Chameleon Stalkers, which would be kind of interesting. I haven't seen anybody bring that many before. It'd be really, really juicy to watch that happen, though. Tic-Tac-Toes, Pterodons, and Ripperdactyls. Either or would be pretty strong. Throg has got all these trolls and Famir. You've got Wulfric with the requirement of champions or marauders. I'm pretty sure that's what it means. Maybe, is it 3 and 3 of both, actually, though? Give me one second. I'm asking Twist. Because I'm getting myself tripped up now. I'm just getting some clarification. I'm pretty sure it's it's or either of both, and not 2 of each. It's the only bit of confusion that I've had reading through them. What's up, Milky Way? Skaven's gonna be super sick. I'm very excited for all the Skaven characters. Because Skaven are a little bit weaker than some of the other factions, but in a tournament like this, it might shake the meta up enough that some of the Skaven Lords might actually have some pretty good natural synergies and builds. Like, Ikit's probably going to still be crazy strong, because he's already got the like, core good units in here included in his requirements, so Ikit's probably going to play pretty similarly to the meta Skaven, honestly. Snicketch is going to be absolutely whack. It's Eshin Triads or Death Runners, or it's Night Runners or Gutter Runners, which is going to be super, super gross. Oh. Okay, so it is or. Either or. Ooh, Sibilant Slaughtercade. Sibilant Slaughtercade's an interesting ROR. It's not even a bad unit, it's just there's so many other good options for Slaanesh that you never ever see it. I don't think there's any Slaanesh players, though. I do know that there's some Skaven, I know there's some Lizardmen, I'm pretty sure there's 2 Chaos Dwarf players. Nurgle, Broccoli Fangirl's playing Nurgle. That's going to be really exciting, because she's always been really good on this faction. I don't actually know who she's going to be playing, Lords-wise, though. I think she's getting a random option. You got Scarbrand? Holy shit. Oh my god. Scarbrand's gonna be super tough, dude. His requirements are pretty in-depth. He's probably one of the tougher lords, in fact, just because he has to bring Blood Crushers. I think this is gonna be like Scarbrand full mobility build, essentially, is the only way to go about this. Like, no infantry, and you do, like, tons of horsemen, tons of furies and fleshhounds, maybe, like, a couple bloodletters or something for some infantry, corngores. I'm curious to see what you come up with, Piston. Even Bloodthirster would have been better. I honestly think that Skulltaker's requirements are too lax. I actually think that you could make it a little bit tougher and more interesting if we force Skulltaker to include a Soul Grinder. Because Soul Grinder is, like, borderline okay. There's a couple of matchups where I actually really enjoy it. I think it'd be a lot more interesting for Skulltaker to have to use a much more off-meta unit than Bloodletters. Bloodletters are good in most matchups. Yeah, right, that's literally a normal Khorne army. You just bring 3 Bloodletters, and then you bring all the usual suspects, and you just go rip-running and roaring over people. I really want the Soul Grinder. I'm going to talk to Twist about it, because I think it would be a cool mix-up for him. Arball the Slaughter Guard? I don't know. I mean, Slaughter Guard would be... I think Slaughter Guard would be better for Valkia, personally. Brutes of the Hound is pretty cool requirement for her. I'm excited to see those guys. Also, I need to go grab 2 people. Sweet. So Broccoli is going to be our first live game. And then we're just going to get replays from people. I'm going to remind them in the chat to drop them here, because I would love to cast as many as possible. Three rounds before semis. Oh yeah, this is single elimination too. This is going to be a really intense tournament. I'm not going to be going through a whole lot. Oh, my bad. I didn't mean to exit out of that. Anyways, welcome back. So there's some leaderboard of who is playing against who for now, just check-ins. Refresh your browser on the tournament page, and it should bring up the bracket. It's a little annoying that you have to refresh the browser constantly for this, but it works better than nothing, I guess. Oh my god, it's Broccoli and Lemur. No freaking way, dude. Okay. And let me go get Lemur's Bane. If there's anything that I know about lemurs, that they're 90% I'm 90% certain that they're going to be playing the Chowie. So a Nurgle versus Chaos Dwarves game right off the bat is very juicy, because this is a matchup that's got some it's got some interesting it's got some interesting play for sure. Nurgle, I would say, is generally pretty unfavored against the Chowie, but somebody as good as Broccoli might have some tricks for evening this up a little bit. Don't give me Slaughterguard and my 2 Skull Crushers. Don't worry about it. Slaughterguard don't fit with Scarbrand. Honestly, Scarbrand and the Bloodletters would be better fit than for Skulltaker. I feel like Skulltaker should either lean into the Soul Grinder, or should just be required to bring like a bunch of Blood Thrones. Alright, Lemur's here. We're just waiting on Broccoli now. She's on her way. Map. What the hell map are we on? I don't know why I can never remember them. There's so many maps to have to pick from anyways. Oh, there's 5 options? Oh, they're doing map bands too? Holy crap, okay. So yeah, Lemur on Chaos Dwarves, Broccoli on Nurgle, gonna be a really tricky matchup for Nurgle. It always is. I mean, Chaos Dowie just have so many good units against the Chaos factions in general. You know, it's almost as if they're a besieged dwarven people whose original founding was, and fall to Chaos was rooted in their opposition to Chaos. You know, age-old, become what you hate kind of morality tale. Figures that they would come up with a bunch of really cool technologies to deal with them. Are they seriously playing Eastern Isle? Okay. Hell yeah. We're already on it. This is the last map that I played in a tournament game on. I lost on Eastern Isle. I hate it. This is one of my least favorite maps, personally, to play on. I love the look of the map. The aesthetics are peak, and I know a lot of people really enjoy it, but for whatever reason, my brain just goes totally smooth playing on this map, and I can never figure out how to win games here. Scarbrand with Slaughter Brute. Dude, that would be pretty cool. It would be cheaper than his investment into all the Blood Crushers and Fleshhounds. They're just selecting units right now, building their rosters out. I'm talking with Twist, because I really want to see Skulltaker get added to a pretty cool unit. I do love the bloodletter requirement for Skulltaker. I just think that you're bringing 3 bloodletters into like half the factions in the game, so if Skulltaker also has to do a big single entity that requires a ton of micro, I think it'd be an added dimension to the fun factor on him. Because otherwise it's going to be the most meta Khorne build you've ever seen in your life around all of that. It's a strange one to approach the objectives on. For Khorne, it definitely is. The reason I don't really love this map, personally for me, I mean, Khorne can just bum rush the objectives, but this is also a pretty good map for a handful of artillery factions, because the objectives are very open. You've got lots of forests that you can hide in, but Chaos Dowie are a huge pain in the ass on this map. I get counterpicked here constantly by Chaos Dwarves and Cry. I just prefer bigger, more open maps, personally. I love my big, wide flank attacks and overwhelms. The required Skulltaker units are meta for Khorne and multiplayer. Not quite meta, per se. There's plenty of matchups where you don't want to bring a bunch of bloodletters. But just because of the way bloodletters operate and the way that Skulltaker operates on his Blood Throne, he gives them a ton of passive buffs when they're in combat together, and they just go absolutely crazy, and they will just run over people. Oh my god, dude. Oh, Piston. I feel for you, bro. 1350 gold left in your starting army. That's pretty beautiful. I just joined multiplayer yesterday. Meta knowledge is 0. Meta knowledge is not overrated. It's not. I was about to go a little bit too deep into the hot take. We need to back ourselves up from this ledge. Meta knowledge is great, but I do think that there's a tendency by people to overrate what is and isn't meta. I think that there's a ton of room for experimentation in domination mode, and especially just because of how many factions there are in this game, and how many units you have to operate with per faction. I think that there's a lot more quote-unquote meta builds and options than what tends to get settled on as being the best way to play a specific faction. Because I see guys like Scrambled Egg play like 6-unit openers all the time with just like massive blobs of SEs and stuff that you wouldn't actually think would be all that effective. But Scrambled Egg wins tournaments with builds like that. He's beaten me in the finals before with just an absolutely ridiculous single entity bum rush. A responsible content creator in this economy? No, not responsible enough. I don't know. Let's not go there. Let's not pump up the ego too much. Sigvald? Oh, Sigvald is in Slanesh's pool now, since he got added onto the roster. Yeah, macro and decision making is way better than build and meta knowledge. Because if you watch Anticity does off-meta stuff all the time, and just wins anyways. So it's really about execution and your battle tactics, I think, that makes the real X factor for whether you're winning tournament games or not. I think there's tons of skill expression in this game, and that's why I love it so much. You know, for like land battles and Conquest in Warhammer 2 and 1, there was a very real problem with there being just a very, very stagnant meta oftentimes. You know, it was totally mobility dominated. And, you know, range tools were way overrepresented in terms of combat prowess. So they tended to be pretty settled in what the genuine, most oftenly brought builds were, and they were pretty dominant. But the triple objectives in domination mode just, like, equalizes a lot of things. Because you get so much time to play points and for value that you can bring tons of different options and play out of forests to avoid artillery fire and missiles. You can do super wide infantry builds that just go for the points and just try to win on objectives. Like I said, you can do absolutely insane overloads on single entities and rush people down and try and, like, lord snipe and tear out large portions of armies. How about I play it because it looks cool? That's what Anticity does a lot of the time, and I don't know if you know who that is, but he's one of the best players in the community. Anyways, we're going to move on to get into the game. We've got a big old wall of Chaos Dwarf Warriors here with a bunch of Goblin Laborers, of course. Need the unpaid interns to get in there. Be the ones who take the lumps first so that everybody else can do their job. Double Deathstreak Rocket. Demon Sorcerer on foot with Flames of Asgore, which is an amazing nuke spell. I've been absolutely ruined by this spell against Lemur before. I think, actually, the last time I lost on this map was to Lemur, in fact. With a very different build from what he's got here, but nonetheless some of the same elements. I mean, Chaos Dowie love their artillery, they love their Dwarf Warriors. Zaytan the Black is very off-meta in terms of a Lord choice, but he's still fairly decent. He's got a really great snare that you can use to lock characters or units down and obliterate them with missiles. That's going to be very interesting to see. I would imagine that's part of the game plan for the Chaos Dowie here. Festus is going to be really annoying to deal with if they can't shoot him down. The Deathstreak Rockets will help a little bit, but they are an anti-large unit, so they're going to miss out on quite a bit of damage. They could use the Demo Rocket, or the... what is it? Oh, it's the Deathstreak. The Demo Rocket is the single entity killer, and the Deathstreak is the actual anti-infantry piece. Really nice dodge. The Frolicker's Bubonic kiting out one of the shots from the Deathstreak as it's trying to drop that airburst mortar on top of their heads. Big damage potential out of those, but they don't track like the single entity rocket does. So they can be fairly easy to dodge at times. See if it's going to happen here. I think this is going to be a direct hit. Brutal damage on the Chosen. Good dodge over here, though. The double Deathstreak is kind of hard to dodge. If it's just one, it's usually pretty easy to handle, but Chosen got bonked on the head pretty hard. They're probably going to just jump up into the trees here to hide and see if they can preserve their HP for a bit here. Another shot coming in and doing some pretty wicked stuff there. Marauder's getting hit as well, but this Chosen and the Spawn have gotten away scot-free so far, just trickling up through the forest here and staying in cover. And I think being slightly out of range for most of this, yeah. Lemur hasn't quite gotten on top of those guys yet. And it looks like Broccoli's going to go for a very aggressive push onto the number 3 objective here. Beautiful Rancid Visitations going down. Gonna be big damage on the Demonsmith Sorcerer. These guys don't have a lot of HP, and Rancid Visitations does a ridiculous amount of damage when it's overcast. You can see this guy's gonna be going below half health, in fact. And he might even be broken by this. And in fact, he does go Spawn of Nurgle, keeping pace with him and maybe helping push him back, keeping his leadership low so he wasn't able to recover. He's going to be routing for a few more seconds. He should be relatively okay in a moment, but there is an Exalted Hero. Exalted Hero could get back there and maybe be able to snipe this guy out. Trying to close the gap, Nurglings and Festus are going to be hanging out here. Chosen following the attack up with the Spawn in a relatively rough position. Spawn are just really squishy with basically no armor. I mean, they've got 10 armor, whoop-de-doo. They can take some pretty horrendous damage from even lightly armed infantry. Stuff like Chaos Dwarf Warriors can still do pretty good damage to them, but they are unbreakable. They'll sit there and grind for quite a bit longer. Frolicker's Bubonic going down, not a lot of value on those guys. Didn't really get a chance to heal much either. And a brutal Flames of Asgore going down, deleting both of these Marauders. Chaos Dwarf Warrior's a little beat up, and we do have the Exalted Hero trying to run down the Demon Smith Sorcerer. This guy did rally. The Exalted Hero's having a lot of struggles hitting this guy right now. Doesn't seem like he's making very good contact. Right as I say that, though, he gets a good smack in there. Leadership still hasn't broken, and now Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders are going to be jumping into that fight back there. Definitely going to help lock that down. This is a beautiful pocket for another Flames of Asgore, if possible. And it looks like that could be on the table. It's a 200-meter cast range. And the Demon Smith Sorcerer is looking okay for the most part. Another Exalted Hero on him. And another aggressive dive onto the Prophet, but more Hobgoblins come out, but this time they get countercharged by Furies. One Exalted Hero going down. Goblin Wolf Raiders still trying to move over to help out with the Demon Smith Sorcerer. Oh yeah, there we go. That's the Flames of Asgore that we're looking for. Right on top of the Chosen, a good reaction from Broccoli, but just a disgusting impact on the Chosen and the Spawn here. Spawn also taking a lot of damage from that cast. And a massive value lead for Lemur. Lemur is just dog-walking Broccoli right now, but I honestly am not super surprised. This does tend to happen on occasion in this matchup. Nurgle just tends to be very blobby and oftentimes fairly slow, which is usually a death sentence against a faction with such good bombardment spells, and then these freaking death streaks, dude. They really, honestly, haven't been tremendously effective this game, but they've still put a lot of pressure on the elite infantry. And the Chosen just haven't been able to do enough. I mean, 99 value on this 1,450 gold unit is brutal. Absolutely horrific. There's really not much more to say about it. Kadai Fireborn are starting to really run away with this game, and the Chaos Dowie Warriors have done a very good job of holding the line. Nary a single one of them is broken before all the answers have come out for whatever it might be that they're fighting that they personally can't deal with. That's painful. Having to pop a, what, Stream of Corruption is what it's called? Yeah, Stream of Corruption onto Goblin Laborers. It's a 150 gold unit that you have to waste magic on. Did decent damage, but the Kadai Fireborn are still going to have enough support here that I don't think it's going to matter too much. I mean, they're going to rip Festus apart here. Zaytan is toying with his food a little bit. Exalted Hero isn't the best target for him. He doesn't have a lot of AP. He is just a really decent combatant more than anything. He's not particularly strong with 44 melee attack, though. It tends to let him down a lot. He's down to 31 since he's exhausted. He really has to get good attacks off and pop like Enfeebling Foe and the Withering to help him in a lot of fights against other single entities. But he could bully Festus a little bit. That's really where I think he would be better off focusing his time right now. Brutal friendly fire. Very lore accurate Chaos Dowie there. I don't know what the hell's happening with that shot, but Broccoli is just so beat up. I don't think there's much of an opportunity left here. And she is going to tap out. Very unfortunate round 1 loss for her. I do like this build. I think seeing double Death Shriek, you might want to just hold up the advance onto your opponent's back point at that stage. It's very ambitious to be gunning for your opponent's backline against a faction like the Chaos Dwarves. And this is a very solid frontal formation. Like, all these Chaos Dwarf Warriors and just 2 Summons of Fireborn out is an insta-counter to your army as it stands, and then you've got to contend with the artillery and Flames of Asgore on top of that. Not many more notes to give here. Just beautiful play by Lemur. Just utterly dismantling this Nurgle army. Lock, stock, and smoking barrel. Not the game at this build. come play some tournaments, Daniel. Come play in one of the new player tournaments on Saturday. I promise you'll have a really good time. You can come play with all the other new folks and play all the fun stuff and just learn your factions without all the pressure of the leaderboard competition. It is what it is. Unplayable, but next one will be better. That's a big rip, dude. That's okay. Even though it's a single elim tournament, and that does mean Broccoli is out, there are going to be more of these tournaments, and there will be future opportunities for her to qualify for. I guess it's going to be like a playoff for the top 16 from people who participate in this. Just checking on the rules. You can also play in the new player tourneys again. Renataki, ask JP or one of the other RTK folks, because I'm not 100% sure. I'd say you could play in new player tournaments as long as you want until you've mastered all the factions. I personally think if somebody is swapping factions and just practicing stuff, then they could play in a new player tournament, as long as they haven't won a leaderboard qualifying event, that is. I don't know if the next one will be better. I think all the corn guys are out. Piston, send me your replay. What happened in your game? Yes, okay, we got one replay. Thank you, Milky Way. Give me a sec, guys. I'm gonna go grab this one for us. If people don't send me replays, I'll just start grabbing them and forcing them to play on stream for us. I do prefer to just cast replays that people send me, because it makes it really easy for everybody involved. Then we don't have to worry about spectator lag, because it is kind of annoying that the peer-to-peer in this game is very temperamental. Yeehaw. Thank you, Gondola. Gondola helped us out, too. What are we looking at here for round one, anyways? We got 32 people who signed up, and we did have a lot of people actually playing, so... Looks like a handful are already done. Danikin had to drop, so that really is unfortunate. Chim, send me your replay, buddy. Thank gosh. Okay. Let's go. Let's go. Alright, this is a good enough amount, so we can just go through the three that I've gotten here. We've got Piston going up against the Skaven. It's one of the corn builds of all time. That's for sure. So we've got Scarbrand and his double Blood Crusher, double Fleshhound opening. Gonna be trying to take down the Skaven here. Deathmaster Snickitch with 3 Eshin Triads. You've got 3 Night Runners here, 1 Poison Wind Globe, and 2 Rattling Guns with a bunch of Skaven Slaves and a Plague Priest. Piston with 3 Marauders. That's as good of a front line as you're going to get with how much money you had to pour into the Lord and the required units. Double Blood Crusher theoretically could work here, but I actually think that the Skaven required units are a pretty solid counter for the most part. I mean, there is a little bit of risk here for these Eshin Triads because they're reliant on Physres. Good charges with the Blood Crushers could absolutely break these guys up into a million pieces very quickly. Depending on how Piston plays this. So Rattling Guns are going to be advancing. Fleshhound's taking a lot of shuriken fire here from the Night Runners. Night Runners don't have a ton of ammunition. They do get a really nice charge onto the flanks. Very good control coming out from Khorne here. But we do have Eshin Triads right next to these dudes. And Skaven Slaves collapsing onto the rear could end up being a big problem. A nice breath attack from Skarbrand, though. I think this is where you just bum rush Snickich and try to kill him. Get Skarbrand out of here. Although, we do get a beautiful Deathmaster Sigil. Oh my god. Ouch. Alright, it was a bit of a bait and switch. Rattling Guns out here on the flanks, and then you get the snare from Snickich, and Skarbrand getting absolutely melted here. I don't know how apparently Piston had the same thought process as me. Without considering the dangers of the Rattling Guns. Rattling Guns have been a meme for a while, but nowadays, it doesn't seem like it after melting Skarbrand in about 15 seconds. That's about as brutal of a start as you can have, and the Heralds of Khorne's Fury and the Blood Crushers now are just set up perfectly in the sights of the Rattling Guns, who take about 20 seconds to also nuke these guys out of existence. Jesus Christ, man. Big ouch. Piston, and myself even, I mean, I gave them the losing strategy here, which I thought was to bum rush with Skarbrand to get Snickich. Just gets absolutely deleted from the game here. Rattling Guns turning out to be pretty decent units when they get to sit and shoot something that's, you know, what, 20 meters tall? How big is Skarbrand, by the way? He's a fairly large character, and Snickich is not, like, itty-bitty by any means. He's fairly big for one of the Skaven. You can see him trotting along, looking to scrap with some of the Fleshhounds and the Marauders. Khorne is just super gassed at this point. Like, there's not a whole lot you can do when you've lost so many of your units so quickly. A little bit of a runaway stomp like we saw with Broccoli a bit. We'll see if that carries over for some of the remaining games in the tournament. I think that what this probably is going to be indicative of is people are going to need to come up with some more inventive strategies for some of the more off-meta Lord options like Skarbrand and probably Festus too. I believe Festus had a requirement for Chosen in his army. It's not going to be easy. If you want to win with some of these Lords, you're going to have to put in a lot of work, man. See, the Skaven are kind of nice for this tournament because they have so many cheap units, and the required units, as I was looking through it last night, actually does look pretty decent in terms of what you're having to use. Because they're not, like, low-quality garbage. It's stuff like you have to bring a bunch of weapon teams for Ikit, you have to bring all these Eshin units for Snickich, which could be pretty weak, but Eshin Triads are still fairly decent, in my opinion. Usually you just see Skaven players bring tons of weapon teams because they don't want to have to worry about melee combat that much. But well-positioned Triads can actually get quite a bit of damage in. You can see that one of them there has paid off. Other one didn't do amazing, but still got about 300 value, which is about half the cost. It's not amazing, but considering the quality of the Khornate army as a whole and how much magic damage is available on the field to get through the Physres these guys have, at the very least they're occupying the attention of the mobility. And keeping these Rattling Guns safe. The Rattling Guns did get jumped on by the Furies. I think with a better dive, Piston might have been in a better position. I think you might just have to build up with this Skarbrand army. Maybe flank Overload with all the Flesh Hounds and the Blood Crushers and, like, loop all the way around the map to get up into the back line, maybe. Oh, that's really close to deployment zones. This map is also kind of rough for Khorne because there's some really good positions to set up in with your range tools so you can cover all of the waterways. And it's important to remember that infantry do get slowed down and lose melee attack, I believe, in the watery areas of the map, which can make it a little bit difficult to advance. Just filthy value on the Rattling guns. I mean, 1,400 and 2,000 is beautiful. Absolutely amazing stuff. Triads were okay, one of them fairly healthy, didn't get a ton of value, but was, you know, available on hand. This one just about paying for itself. The other one not nearly as efficient. Night Runners kind of just doing their thing. Night Runners are a minimal investment. They're 450 gold. It's the Triads and the Death Runners that are the more difficult units to work into the army. Maybe with a little more patience on the dive, you can get a little bit more done. Skarbrand really needs to get into the back line to get his rampage off on weapon teams, or he should catch out Snickitch in the open field somewhere. You just can't afford to fall asleep when you're diving Skaven positions. Got another replay. Let me drop it in here before I forget about it. It seriously was. You got the whole uphill charge into prepared defensive positions and everything. His model is about 2.5 stories tall. Yeah, but stories in what sense? Are we talking... What kind of building are we talking? That's not like a very standardized measurement at all. Skarbrand could either be 20 feet tall or he could be about 50 feet tall, is what you're telling me. 25 to 28 feet. Yeah, that's huge. They can vary. Sounds like it. Definitely wasn't unwinnable. I was certainly unwilling. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Piston. You and I can game out a nice build for Skarbrand with those units. Oh, okay. So we got a bit of a classic showdown going on here. We've got Gepard on the Tomb Kings versus Tzeentch, who's going to be rocking up in here with Kairos and an Exalted Lord of Change and a Burning Chariot, which I'm imagining has to be a requirement. I don't know when the hell was the last time I've seen this. Arkin had to bring the Hyro Titan. Hyro Titan is actually a pretty cool unit. I really don't hate this thing as much as others do. I don't think it's good by any means because it's so slow. But I've actually seen it put up a pretty good fight as long as there's stuff around it to beat up on. And it does have some decent bound items. Like Shem's Burning Gaze does pretty good damage. Spirit Leech is one of the best spells in the entire game. And you get 2 uses of that. Teamed up with Arkin, who can throw down Spirit Leech as well, you can actually maybe do some significant damage to Kairos and keep him kind of on his tippy toes. Plus you get Spirit Conduit. Oh, no way. Gives spell mastery now. Not just recharge rate. Really, I don't remember that change at all from the patch notes. Adds an extra dimension to this for sure. Really nice blue fire onto the Ushabti Greatbows. Pretty good damage that you can just throw out consistently. And it looks like Kairos is just going to be going for blue fire spam. Which I think is going to work out pretty nice for Rogue Trader. You just cast this endlessly on whatever target you desire. It does good damage to infantry, good single target damage, good damage to monstrous bow units like these guys here. You get a really good Gaze of Fate going in on the horse archers, and an awesome engagement by the Lord of Change, which is actually doing some good damage right now. Kairos does get hit by the Spirit Leech. It looks like that's the Arcan version, since it does have the spell intensity cranked up. And then you also get a layered normal Spirit Leech. I don't know if those actually stack, but it does look like it does. Kairos loses about 1500 HP here. Honestly, a pretty decent trade out for one Skeleton Horse Archer. Getting to hammer Kairos like that is pretty sick. Carrion getting melted by the Knights of Immolation, and a really good bait by the Burning Chariot, just pulling back to the safety of the aerial clearance unit. I don't even know what to call these guys. They're a great enforcer for the skies, and ever since they got the bonus versus large, they have been a little bit better at value trading in my experience. They're a lot less reliant on Searing Torrent to get value, and now they can actually throw down with mobility. Because the big issue is that they could just get tar pitted by crap like these Skeleton Horse Archers. But now they clean them up really quickly with the extra 8 melee attack and weapon strength. Blue Horror's kind of trotting forward. Skeleton Warrior summon right up in their face. Really nice positioning on it. Just mucking up the works while the Tomb Kings are advancing up into the front line, looking to get nice and settled. Looking for some good opportunities to scrap on the front line, I would think. I will say that the Forsaken are going to do some wicked damage to the Skeleton Warriors. Spearmen and Skelly Warriors just can't do anything to Forsaken. There's too much armor and weapon strength, as well as good melee attack, to actually work around that melee defense, which is honestly pretty weak on these guys. Pretty blobbed up, and a Screaming Skull Catapult doing some effective damage for sure. But you do have problems for the Tomb Kings developing, with their Ushabti being a little too close to the front line for one, and then also getting bum rushed very effectively by the powerful single entities here. Kairos has pretty poor stats, but at least he's got good AP values. About as good on the AP as the Lord of Change, even if he's got a little bit, well, oh, actually same weapon strength. Okay, just the weaker melee attack and defense, but that's really not that bad. Even if he hits infrequently, he's still fighting against a unit that's really not that well suited for melee combat. He can get some pretty effective value just by beating up on them. Gepard still has a value lead. I don't know how true it is. The skeletons are doing their job of just slowly dying. I mean, they've held up in the front line okay. Hyrule Titan here with about 500 value. Really decent performance, all things considered, for a big, expensive monster like this. Getting into the rear of the Forsaken. Although this isn't too terrible for them with the ITP, they won't get terror routed, which is one of the big selling points of a Hyrule Titan. Especially if something's going to be slow, you might as well expect it to actually route stuff in a radius around it. Not going to be doing as much of that, but it is actually helping clear out this unit. The Forsaken were at a pretty good amount of HP just a minute ago, and Hyrule Titan's starting to pummel them pretty well, actually routing them now, up to 760 value. One Ushabti dead, the other is compromised. Arkan in here fighting, doing what he can, but a Lord of Change is a little bit too much for him to handle. At the very least, the Ushabti are buffering a decent amount of damage for him, and the Sepulchral Stalkers are looking to get their laser eyes on target. But terrain features proving to be a bit of a problem. You can see them firing into the hillside here. That sucks, man. Gotta get up and around onto that edge of the hill, I think, before you're gonna get much of anything done. Although Chaos Knight's now in position to potentially carry home a charge to get into the backfield here. And Sepulchral Stalkers do have okay defensive stats. A Chaos Knight of Tzeentch and Screamers would be way too much for them to handle, though. I think this might be where Rogue Trader could get some work done. Knights of Immolation haven't gotten a lot of value, though. And it does look like the Forsaken are starting to get rolled up here. The Hyrule Titan has done an excellent job stacked up with the Ushabti and the Skeleton Spears. They're clearing through the Chromatic Abominations, who are crumbling now. We've killed a Forsaken here. The other one that was out on this flank earlier got routed. Knight's Immolation looked pretty lonely, and another Blue Horde going down, and more Nekar Horsemen and Skeleton Horse Archers making their way out onto the field.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Sepulchral Stalker's going to be going down as the trade-out, though. Shrieking Skyray is taking some serious damage, and in fact, the Catapult actually making contact with them and chunking through their HP, even breaking their leadership with the take cover effect. And they're going to crumble out here potentially, although a last-second rally on the leadership going to be able to keep these guys in combat for the time being. Chaos Knight's going really deep looking to get after the Catapult. And a massive summon of infantry here with an Ushabti Greatbow. Not a bad call, honestly. The Knights want to get this Catapult. The Ushabti Greatbows have a little infantry protection in front of them, so the Knights actually are going to completely wheel out of here. By the time they find another position to fight on, they'll probably have lost another, like, 10-15 models, and they're going to be in a really ugly spot from there on out, I think. The Knights of Immolation charging down the Ushabti Greatbows, struggling pretty mightily to provide meaningful value, though, and the Hyrule Titan standing tall here. 1,000 value, it's fallen off a little bit, not keeping up the pace of efficiency in terms of damage, but it is providing cap weight. It's a useful bulwark for the middle position here. Severed Claw coming in to tear down the big construct, I think. We'll see how effective they are. The Severed Claw can do big damage to Tomb Kings. Great defensive unit, good cap weight, and amazing stats with good AP and a bonus versus large of 30, which is better than just about any unit in the game. Usually you're looking at about 20 to 25 as the par. I think the only units that have higher bonuses are Bloodthirsters and Gorgons, perhaps. Lord of Change, chasing around Arkan. You saw Kairos go down. Need to check his value at the end. It was probably pretty good with the blue fires, but not looking like it's going to be enough. Gepard has just done such a good job of holding on to the objectives, despite the Tomb Kings being a fairly low cap weight faction. Their infantry all being expendable outside of their elites is really unfortunate for them. But their horsemen make up for that by just being cheap and having their full cap weight. They're usually able to get up on objectives quickly and cap them away from folks. And they've given a lot, they've caused a lot of issues for Tzeentch, who did have to commit to a big air force. I mean, Kairos is very expensive. Lord of Change is about 1,400 gold. Knights of Immolation, another 1,700, and I'm pretty sure those are all required units. Or actually, no, the Burning Chariot was the other required unit. And they're, what, 1,200 gold or so? No idea what happened with that Burning Chariot. I didn't keep good enough track of it. We'll get a gander at what it was able to do at the end. Chaos Knights, getting a lot of kills, but not a lot of value for all of the effort. Severed Claw with about 800. They ripped that Hyrule Titan apart in no time flat. Do cap the middle objective away from Tzeentch, and we do get a cap on the #1 here. AI is not out of the game. It's going to be an uphill climb for sure without your Lord available. The Lord of Change is struggling a bit. Just constantly getting chased down by these horsemen, trying to push away now to get after Arkan, but just can't quite pull out of the blob of horsemen. Every time they hit him, and they're staying in close contact like this, it's keeping him grounded from being able to take off. Another Spirit Leech from Arkan going down. He's got 1,800 value, which is beautiful to see. He's honestly very cost efficient. The reason you don't see him too much is because the Cetra spell spam on the War Sphinx is usually a little bit more appealing than the Death Magic for the Tomb Kings, but Arkan is definitely not any kind of useless unit. He's definitely got some applications, and Gepard did a great job of utilizing him. Looks like a recontest coming in from Skeleton Warriors. You got the Blue Horrors crumbling out there, and we are going to see a very slow cap on that number 1. It just takes so long for Tomb Kings to take objectives. They might even get triple capped here. Is Rogue AI going to be able to flip this around? Chaos Knights are still alive with 21 models, cleaning up some warriors right now. Nakar Horsemen out here on the flank, still going after that Lord of Change, which is refusing to die right now. Ushabti Greatbows being jumped by the Furies and the Shrieking Skyrays. Skyrays at 1300 value. I do believe this is a fresh summon of them, though. I'm pretty sure they crumbled out completely earlier. Eyes of the Desert 1500. First time around, they were a lot less good. Looks like they're doing a little bit better on their recontest attempt. The Furies are going to go down here as well, and the Ushabti will be saved. Very close call on them. They are crumbling a little bit. Maybe their leadership rallies. Keep them by Arkan, and they will probably be fine. Is it rallied now? No, they're still crumbling. That's going to suck. They got a little bit of ammo left. I have used a majority of it. Probably just want to hit the Lord of Change or the Severed Claw. Either or will work. The Severed Claw are very healthy, and there's a long way to go on finishing these guys. Up to 1,000 value. Lord of Change, another Spirit Leech from Arkan hitting him. 2,000 on him. Number 1 going to be capped, but just barely taking it still. Despite having 2 units, you can see how bad the infantry really are, man. I mean, they provide no value. They barely hold up the pressure on you either with the terrible stats. It's a little bit dire. I mean, these late game situations are so tricky for the Tomb Kings because of that. You can be down pretty big against the Tomb Kings sometimes. If you just kill their constructs and don't get totally flattened and leave a bunch of missile units alive and on the field, these are the kind of situations that you can end up in where even after poorly value trading at the beginning and really being down in terms of quality and quantity initially, you can flip it around just by getting the opportunity to grind into the warriors who are just so awful and cost 300 gold a pop. But there's really not anything better that Tomb Kings are going to be able to bring out, because if they go for stuff like Tomb Guard and Nehekara Warriors, there's a lot of workarounds for beating those units. They're a much bigger investment and are sometimes cost-effective, but oftentimes run into problems. Sour Guts looking to get some shooting in. Eyes of the Desert up on the high ground here are going to get a pretty good arc of fire onto them. Definitely going to have to remember the LOS problems, though. Oh, but it looks like they're going to go after the Severed Claw instead, who are on equal footing. Look how big these guys are. I just realized they're almost the same height as the sneaky snakes over there. They obviously aren't quite as long. I don't have these those big old tails to be carrying around. So Chromatic Abominations holding in the middle with some Forsaken. Spirit Leech going down on the Severed Claw is going to chip them down fairly effectively. Spirit Leech damage on 16 entity units is usually respectable. I'm trying to do their best to finish those units off. Horse Archers, I should say, getting up onto the number 3 here, get charged by the Shrieking Skyrays and taking some bad damage from the Sour Guts. Attempted cap coming in on the number 3 from the Tomb Kings, but continuing to struggle to hang on to these points. Fury's getting in here as well now. Skeleton Warriors doing their best to provide cap weight. Sour Guts slowing all of this down in the process, and Tzeentch does end up with a ticket lead. Not quite triple cap range, though. This is going to go down to the wire, guys. I think a good push on the number 1 objective out here with a Forsaken could break this game open for AI, because there's nothing speedy to get over here right now. Gepard's trying to bank up some supplies, but I mean, it's only 800. You can bring out 2 Skeleton Horsemen, I guess, from the Vanguard. That would be your best bet. I haven't seen a bunch of them. I know there's at least 1 in this army. I've been seeing a lot more Nehekara Horsemen. than the regular old guys. Skeleton Chariot making its way out. It will be a good cleanup piece for the Forsaken, especially. Forsaken can do some damage to chariots on the charge, just because they have such a nice charge bonus and weapon strength. Their AP split is pretty poor, and there's a lot of chariots for the unit. Instead of the usual 4 for the Tomb Kings, they get 12 chariots in their crews. And they have pretty good mass, 1,500, which is about normal for the other chariot units in the game. They can really steamroll over infantry units, even who have decent armor. 85 is not mitigating all of the base weapon damage. And with the bonus versus infantry, as long as they keep cycle charging, they should be able to start controlling the pace and flow of reinforcements up to these points. Double cap is secured for the Tomb Kings. Very narrow gap for any kind of mistakes, though. But we do have a collapse coming in from Tzeentch on this middle point. Just steady, consistent pressure from Skeleton Warriors, getting up on these points and continuing to cause leadership problems for the demonic units just by sandwiching them. Even if it's just a crappy Skeleton Warrior, full surround is a full surround. Leadership is tanking one way or another. Nobody wants to be fighting at the disadvantage of having your back to enemies on both sides. Chariots coming to the high ground to clean up the middle, running over the Chromatic Abominations. Brutal damage and an instant leadership collapse on those guys. 234 value on them. I can't help but feel maybe the Chariot would have been a nice summon earlier instead of the Screaming Skull Catapult, but the Catapult did pull some aggro to the back, which got some pretty good value via Ushabti Greatbows shooting down Chaos Knights.
You have the foe's victory point.
Maybe not needing it. Gepard looks to have secured all 3 objectives. Tzeentch is a little too gassed. They do flip the number 3, but they have been surpassed on the points, and it looks like Gepard is going to be walking away with a crazy close game. For how lopsided the first 2 were, this one delivered entertainment in spades.
Unending glory is yours.
Both players scrapping until the very end, and Rogue AI was almost able to get back into this one. Burning Chariot with about 800 value, definitely a bit of a letdown. Kairos only got 800, which is really brutal. Very poor performance from the Tzeentch Lord. Maybe Pink Fire would have been a good addition. As easy as it is to kill Skeleton Warriors sometimes, just by throwing armored infantry at them, sometimes it's not necessarily worth it. A Pink Fire addition to the spell kit would have been very strong at clearing these guys out. Does great damage against low armored chaff. 1900 on the Ushabti. Hyrule Titan with 1200 value. You know, it's certainly not the most impressive performance by any means, but it was a good distraction piece. It still got more than half its value. I'd take that any day of the week over a unit that just gets absolutely shit-canned in the opening minutes. Kind of like this Ushabti Greatbow did. They kind of got run over. Even though this is a better unit, ostensibly, the Hyrule Titan actually ended up performing a little bit more solidly that time around. Let's get some round 2 games going. We've got a couple coming in here from folks. Let me actually ask people to hold. Forced to build, born to charge. It's a brilliant name for your replay, Piston. Oh, he has Pendulum. Pendulum would still be okay for clearing out the chaff. It does good damage to tight formations, which is you know, the Tomb King's infantry to a T. If you can get a couple of guys lined up, you can do some good damage. You can even do good damage to the horsemen as well if they get blobbed up. Okay. Ever since they took Regrowth away from Kairos, the spell kit has been unimpressive. That's pretty fair. Regrowth was probably the best spell that he had. I'm just shocked that Bluefire didn't do nearly as much as I'm used to seeing it do. Maybe just staying on top of Arcan all game with Bluefire would have been the way to go. The hell is Zinch? Here it is. All the names blend together for me. Okay, so yeah, he does have Penumbral. Barona's Time Warp would have been kind of funny. It's not the best spell, but you could probably throw that out and try to lawnmower your way through the front line really quickly. Because it lasts for ages. I mean, it's 50 seconds in an AoE. And once it gives the buff to the unit, you can move out of the radius and you still have the buff, I'm pretty sure. And you get charge speed, and you just get speed and charge speed plus melee attack. There's a lot to like about that. This is pretty mediocre elsewise, though. So, like, maybe you could do this and mix and match the spells as needed. Because even though you killed the Skeleton Warriors fairly effectively with your infantry, you spent a long time doing it. Anyways. Let's move on to the next replay. We've got Milky Way looking to get another dub here with the Eshin themed army up against, you know him, you love him, Wolfric with his Skinwolf Werekin. Very common sighting, those two running together. Death Sorcerer against Skaven is almost always a good choice. Not only do you have Spirit Leech, but Doom and Darkness is also really strong in this matchup because you can just delete leadership on Skaven using it. I'm not sure what the other spell is for Boss Toss. It's not showing up here. We'll see it once we're in-game. Might be something else. I don't think Buna is very good against Skaven. What's the other spell? Purple Son of Xerius actually unironically being taken by one of the best players in the entire game. So I guess I really need to put respect on Purple Sun nowadays. Brutes of the Hound, tons of Berserkers. I mean, just a full battle line of Marauders and Berserkers. Gonna be rushing down the Skaven, which honestly isn't gonna be too terrible for Norska at all. The high-quality infantry will very easily beat up on the Eshin Triads. Triads are really gonna be looking for Skinwolves and mobility to fight, which could end up being a bit of an issue because you're probably going to see Chariots first, which is indeed going to be the first summon out, and those are going to bully the Plague Monk Censer Bearers. The Censer Bearers are a very interesting option. You know, they've got a little bit of Fizz Res. They contaminate leadership, which is a -10 debuff. And they've got really good stats. I mean, this is a stat line that many infantry units would be very envious of. This is honestly about as good as an Exalted Bloodletter. The issue for the Censer Bearers is terrible armor and pretty low HP for such an elite unit. 9600 really isn't all that strong. You compare that to the Marauder Berserkers, who have fewer models and more health. It's a little bit easier to clear out the Censer Bearers. Berserkers looking to skirt away from this fight. It looks like they don't really want to spend a bunch of time scrapping with Skaven slaves and whatnot. Marauders going down pretty hard here. Night Runners helping chip them down. But the Berserkers just maneuver around the flank here. Good infantry micro, which is a very underrated aspect of success in my opinion. Having your infantry in the right time and place is super important for some factions, and look at the Brutes of the Hound. They deleted this poor Eshin Triad. Look at these guys just running away. They have given up on life and are desperate to get out of this situation right now. Poison Wind Globes got a really good volley off on the Brutes of the Hound, but just get absolutely schwacked by the Ice Wolf Chariot, which already has 600 value. Gonna be looking for another good opportunity here as they just bulldoze over the elite weapon team options for the Skaven. Continuing to farm value up to 800. They get another really good charge, just turning around and going right through these guys. What is going to be coming in from reserve? Boss Toss does need a little bit more going on here, I think. You get another Ice Wolf Chariot. So you got two of them running around now. Skinwolf Werekin finds the Plague Priest. Excellent isolation on that character. Snickitch looks like he's going to be moving up into the Brutes of the Hound, which is a very dangerous place for him. Also gets hit by Spirit Leech. Infantry units with a bonus are actually very effective at chipping down infantry characters, in my experience. A little bit more pressing issue, though, with the Censer Bearers and the Skaven Slave Spears, though. Brutes of the Hound going to be sent over to try and wear those guys out, almost paying for themselves already. Brutes of the Hound and Berserkers in general are a lot more cost-effective after the buffs. They still aren't an incredible unit just because of their vulnerability to missiles of any type, but I have noticed their performance being a little bit better overall. Just in terms of consistency. Ice Wolf Chariots are just putting in a majority of the work, though. They are brutalizing the Skaven front line and the back line. I mean, both of the Poison Wind Globadiers were taken out almost exclusively by the Chariots. You've got Storm Vermin moving in, but it's a little too late to make a difference for most of the weapon teams. Milky Way, under a lot of pressure now, has secured the number 3 objective. Totally pushed Norska back on this front, but the number 1 is looking pretty grim, and the middle is just absolutely disaster. I mean, Eshin Triads, the last unit of them, I believe, being finished off here. This one is functionally useless. You might as well unsummon it at this point, along with these Clan Rats and Skaven Slaves. Weapon teams you could probably rally for a little bit of value, and the Censer Bearers were just not it. They did not pay off. There weren't a required unit either. I do understand the appeal of bringing them. They would have been good against something like Marauder Champions, but Boss Toss may be kind of knowing the mind games a little bit better than Milky Way and kind of calling out the required units for his opponent. I think the Eshin Triads were included as a hedge against the mobility. The problem is that most of the mobile units for Norska will just never engage the Eshin Triads because they're so much faster. And if they do, it's going to be something like a Chariot, and Chariots just bulldoze over units like Eshin Triads. You have to have mass to stop something like the Ice Wolf Chariot. You need to have Rat Ogres in your army to keep these things from doing what they've done this game, which is just farm the entire Skaven army for 1 billion value. I mean, 230 kills here, 900 value, very efficient performance, 1300 on this one. And they're basically at full health, too, which is the scariest thing about those things. When Chariots work, they look like one of the most overpowered units in the game. But I'm telling you, if you had a couple of Rat Ogres just to stop them from running over the Poison Wind Globes, I think this army and this composition would work 10 times better for Milky Way. Norska is just way too good in a melee fight for the Skaven to be trying to take a 1v1. Their units just lose pound for pound. Storm Vermin are okay. With the Halberds, they are great against the mobility. They hold up well against stuff like Berserkers and Marauders. They are vulnerable to the lure of boats. We got a good Sea Fang there. One of the funnest abilities bound to a character, in my opinion. It's almost as good. It's honestly arguably better than Sleipnir is for Valkia, just because it doesn't have nearly as much AP. It still has about the same damage overall, just a slightly less armor piercing. Really isn't that big of a problem for Seafang because you also get a frostbite effect and you get 1 extra use. Valkia can only use Sleipnir twice, while Wulfric gets 3 uses on Seafang. And he can get tremendous value just by popping this on cooldown, which is kind of gone on here. Boss did a great job of breaking up Skaven formation early. And once the Skaven are kind of on the run, it's very hard to rally them because of the low leadership. Snickich also died in the mix somewhere. I didn't see where. But I would guess that Spirit Leech, Wulfric, and the Skin Wolf were more than a measure for him. Look at the Ice Wolves. Just triple Ice Wolf just blobbing up all the Skaven back here while the Chariots continue the rampage. 315 kills on the Ice Wolf Chariot. Skaven wishing they were anywhere else but here. Yeah, absolutely 0 Rat Ogres. I know that Rat Ogres are very squishy to Ice Wolves and Skin Wolves, but you just can't let Chariots do this to you. And Skaven are so vulnerable to the Chariot play. They have to have something on the field, and just a full infantry army is not really ever going to work out in domination mode. The mobility in general is just too strong once he gets a dominant foothold on the field. He has to take Triads or Death Runners. Death Runners would have been a little bit better than the Censer Bearers, in my opinion. The Eshin Triads are, like, good and all, but having some infantry, maybe, and this is just my thought process, where the hell, oh yeah, I'm looking at the wrong faction. There they are. Death Runners are a little more expensive, but they absolutely obliterate stuff like Marauders, in my experience. Some good strikes, some good alpha strikes with Death Runners and using their concealment bombs to shield their movements from your opponent. Would have been kind of nice. You could blitz onto the flank of the Marauder Berserkers on one of those side points and maybe crush their leadership really quickly, and then kind of steamroll down the flanks. It would require a pretty full commitment to that particular play style, but if you backed it up with some Rat Ogres, it'd be fairly safe from the Chariots. You've got the Weeping Blade effect, and you could definitely do some good work. You could do the same with Triads. I just feel like the Triads are a little bit more out in the cold because their best targets are faster, while the Death Runner's best targets, at the very least, are something they can actually catch. That's where I'm coming from with my recommendation. Brand new player on the worst faction. I don't think Skaven are the worst faction, guys. Skaven are just really hard to learn and play. If you've watched Falling Star function with the Skaven, you will have seen their prowess. They can definitely steal games from people. They're not incredible, but they definitely have some serious teeth that I think people forget to respect at times. Yeah, Ice Wolf Chariots are one of the most broken units right now, for sure. Ice Wolf Chariots, Razor Gore Chariots, anything with about 2,000 mass and crazy high speed tend to be a good option for Chariot play. Haven't played Norska in a while. They've always been fairly strong. Norska is going to be really cracked with the DLC, I think. I think that the DLC is going to buff Norska the most, and then Slaanesh is going to be the runner-up for prowess. I'm going to get some more of these replays. We'll see if we have time, but we should actually be coming up, I think, on the semis and the finals soon. It's a pretty small bracket, and it is single elim, so it's going by really fast. Okay, we got one more round, actually, before semis and finals. I'm just gonna live cast finals. We'll do casts of the semifinals games. I really want to see another one of these tournaments soon, because I think that there's going to be some really sick developments in terms of the meta for this particular like tourney layout, and there's a lot you can do to continue mixing this up. You know, we've already there's been some pretty good discussion in the Discord about some of the other units that could become requirements for some of these lords, and I like a lot of the ideas. I think it'd be pretty fun to see it mixed up after we do a full run-through, maybe. But I really appreciate all the effort that Twist put into this. I need to go back and I want to show it off again, because the instruction manual for the tournament is actually so freaking cool. Like, beautiful layout. It's got that, you know, old school gaming manual vibe and everything. It just looks great. And the prize for winning the full invitational, not just this tournament, but the actual future tournament that's going to be held once enough people qualify, is going to be custom artwork from Twist, which is a very, very generous offer, in my opinion. Should make all I agree. I think DLC for free in multiplayer would actually make it more likely that people buy it for campaign. Because multiplayer is like the perfect place to play around with stuff and get a feel for factions. So even if you don't like multiplayer, there would be incentive for you to try it out. And campaign is the #1 thing people play this game for, right? Like, no matter how popular multiplayer gets, it will always be a sideshow to the campaigns. You know, if people want to play around with those units in campaign, then they buy the DLC. I think it's a pretty cool idea. I don't know if any company would be brave enough to spring for that, though. You know, the corporate structure for most companies is not very generous when it comes to taking any kind of risk with potential profits. It's all about maximizing value, right? If they had guts, though, they would make it free. Oh my god. Yes! Yes! I want to see it. So we've got Charix versus Scarbrand here. Two very high-level players. Charix having to bring the Sisters of Avalorn and the Handmaiden here. Flock of Doomcaster, I'm guessing? Or, oh, Curse of Honor here? I have no idea what the idea behind bringing this Beastcaster is. Maybe this is just for extra Winds of Magic. Oh, it totally is. That's so sneaky. Alright, Charix doing the tried and true channeler strategy. You've got this Mage of Beasts here. He has no spells of any kind, just has the 2 items, Starwood Staff and Book of Hoeth. Starwood Staff gives a buffoonish amount of extra Winds of Magic. That is going to be awesome for a L'Oreal, who's going to be throwing down Arcana and Forgings and Tempests like candy. Earthblood is also on the table for heals. Heals are really annoying for Khorne to deal with. Khorne likes to just kill stuff. Doesn't want to be faffing about too long with their opponent's units sticking around longer than they should be. The Frostheart Phoenix is also going to be a pretty good answer to the Hellforged Bellowers. This is a really sick, nasty artillery piece. It does an obscene amount of damage. It did get nerfed by having its range shortened, which I think was a good call. It's a lot more reasonable now, but still really powerful. With good micro, of course. It is a little vulnerable in melee. It doesn't have a ton of melee defense. Its leadership is pretty high for Skull Cannon. The RORs, of course, always have the plus 10 on the leadership and stats generally. This thing is a little bit more ridiculous, though. It gets like 20 extra melee attack, 14 more melee defense, on top of the leadership and the crazy missile that it has. This has got to be one of the best RORs in the entire game. I mean, not really even close. It's kind of good that it's locked to Khorne's roster, because on a couple of other faction rosters, this thing would genuinely get banned out. Khorne not having magic does tend to make things a little bit more difficult on average for Khorne players. You don't get any, you don't have any get-out-of-jail-free cards, right? Like, a lot of times, that's kind of what Magic is. Magic covers up a lot of weaknesses in builds. Khorne not having magic means that your builds have to be very pinpoint, and your tactics have to be exceptional at higher levels of play in order to get wins, because people are generally going to have some pretty well-tuned builds for countering Khorne. You want to play a fairly mobile play style with lots of AP missiles, magic damage wherever you can find it for dealing with any demons. And then bullying characters like Valkia is always a pretty good idea. Double Skull Crusher out on the flank against the single entities and also the Fireborn here. Fireborn do eat the charge from the Skull Crushers head on and get the Star of Avalorn, which is going to be fat value from them. For them, I should say. Just a nasty amount of healing coming down. Skull Crusher's getting annihilated here right now. Could end up being okay for Khorne, though. The Skull Crusher that's gotten onto the rear of the Fireborn are kind of blocking their escape from this position. Hellforged Bellowers wasting a lot of time and energy shooting Alariel, in my opinion. It's not really all that great at shooting single entities. The damage would be a lot better on the Sisters of Avalorn. It'd be a little trickier accessing good targeting opportunities onto these guys. There are 3 of them, and one good volley from each of them will annihilate the Hellforged Bellowers, but I think you'll need to be a little bit more discerning about it. Blood Beasts are doing some pretty good damage. These guys have a great charge bonus and a lot of weapon strength. They're an underrated unit, in my opinion. The extra speed they have does make them very good at screaming up to the front line and supporting. We do get a victory on this flank for Khorne for the most part. You got the Minotaurs, the great weapons getting in as well. They do have a surround on the Handmaiden, but she is on foot, so not the best target for them. Rahagra's Pride going down. You've got the Skull Crushers hanging in here just barely, although they do break here. A Terror Route going down on them. Little bit unfortunate for them. But the other Skull Crusher is rallied also. They've gotten decent value. It's a big win out here on the number 3. It means that the aggression is going to be on the High Elves now, and they do cap the number 2 objective, but a good engagement against the Sisters of Avalorn. Fleshhound's getting all up over this unit, and that's a pretty perfectly tuned counter. Sisters of Avalorn have low HP and really good defensive stats, but are very weak to shock damage. Fleshhounds have weak combat stats and sustained fights, but great shock value with the charge bonus and weapon strength. They are going to go down here, but they keep this unit occupied for the Brutes of the Hound to get onto the rear of this entire fight. Silver and Guard get hammered by the Sleipnir from Valkia there. Valkia doing okay. She's just running for her life, mostly. Doing her best to stay alive here. Blood Beasts on top of the Handmaiden. They should be able to pummel her decently. Handmaiden might win that fight ultimately, because she is an anti-large combatant with really good melee defense. 64 is nasty work. But Sisters have been very mediocre. Only one of them is really online right now, and the Brutes of the Hound are basically at full health, screaming across the field, looking to run them down. The Hellforge Bellower is in good shape. 600 value on it. It's moving across the field. Going to be able to get that missile online against them finally, now that they're in a position where they're down in numbers, they're on the run, they can't really wheel and shoot effectively. I would immediately get the Hellforge Bellowers hammering this unengaged Sister of Avalorn right now. Might be the case that the infantry's close enough to still collapse on them without taking too much damage. Minotaur's getting hit by the one volley the Sisters are able to get off. But now infantry all over them. Minotaur's closing the gap too. You got the Fireborn back out, but are they going to be enough? The Khorne aggression here is just overwhelming. I mean, you got Furies running down a L'Oreal, and they will shred her if they get on top of her. She can't just sit here and fight Furies because her armor is so low. 30 armor is nothing, and Furies have good melee attack. They could definitely punish her. Good land and a good attempt at a bait, but even better decision-making from Skarbrand to avoid landing on the ground there. Brutes of the Hound getting into contact with the Fireborn. They do get run over, but they get their charge bonus in. They get a little bit of damage on these guys, and they are unbreakable, so no real threat of taking them offline yet. Fury's landing on the poor Sisters here, and then get followed up by all the Skull Crushers and the Minotaurs, and they just get absolutely steamrolled. High Elves quickly losing momentum on any of the objectives. Handmaiden finally beat the Blood Beasts over here. Blood Beasts with about 1,000 value. Very respectable. Silver and Guard beat their Marauders, their Marauder combatants over here. But there's two fresh Marauders to hold on to the point. Capweight not flipping for the High Elves. Skull Crushers locking down the Frostheart Phoenix, which has not been able to go after the right target. The Hellforge Bellowers is where they really need to be focusing their time and attention. Get another great Star of Avalorn, but Alariel does break here. And it wears off, and the Fireborn really aren't any better off for the use of it. Bit of a miss on the Sloupnir, but doesn't really matter. Brutes of the Hound are on top of them, finally closing the gap. For well and good this time. I don't think Sisters can run any farther back. High Elves are just fully pushed back into their deployment zone almost. And it's going to take a lot of effort for the High Elves to get into this game. I think it's theoretically possible, but in practicality, the points are going to become a little bit too much of an issue, I think. Could get some unit out onto that side point so the Handmaiden doesn't cap that. That would be really awful for Khorne right now. Definitely want some mobility on the field. I think saving up for a Skull Crusher is a good call right now. I don't know if any are in the bank, but a Minotaur would be another option. If you've got any more, that is. Because there is a decent amount of cavalry out. You got Illyrian Reavers here, Fireborn available, Silverhelm's out and about, and one Fleshhound for all of your mass, really. Not one hundo on that being enough. Fleshhounds, really good catch here. I don't know if that was 100% deliberate, but I do feel like it was. The Fleshhounds are able to wheel and turn onto the Fireborn, stopping them from getting after the Hellforged Bellowers here. And Khorngor is able to close the gap and get after the Illyrian Reavers who are trying to close ground on the Bellowers right now. Bellower probably needed to run through those Khorngors for max effect. High Elves look like they could be recapping this back point finally. L'Oreal is hanging on for dear freaking life. Valkia doing what she can. Chaos Warriors definitely need to attack the Storm Guard here, or the Storm Riders, rather, not the Storm Guard. If they can collapse on those guys, it'd be a really nice, situation for Khorne. Chaos Warriors very quickly beat down on the ROR. Lothern Sea Guard here, these guys just don't have the HP to hold up in that fight. Lion Chariots coming out to clear up the infantry could be nice. Fireborn going all the way around the flank here. Blood Beasts need to be really careful about this fight now. They don't have enough support to survive the Fireborn and Illyrian Reavers collapsing on them. Looks like the Blood Beasts are gonna take the charge against the Fireborn. The Illyrian Reavers get the flank, though. Gonna take the leadership on the Blood Beasts a little bit. Look at the damage these things are taking. Oh, that's gross. You get a really nice Earthblood onto all that cavalry. And the Fireborn with 4,500 value right now. Looking pretty dominant, and Valkia being taken down by the Tempest and the Frostheart Phoenix. Just barely able to keep these monsters alive. Is the healing gonna be the winning play here for the High Elves? Khorngor's coming out, more of those guys waddling onto the field. It's time for Khorne to just bunker up on the objectives. And maybe stop holding on this back point. Keep whatever you can up on the number 1, and maybe use a Fleshhound to get out and cap that number 3, just to put pressure on your opponent to respond to units going off over there. You've got Rangers coming out, the Lion Chariot, another really good unit. Another one of those 2,000 mass chariots with a ton of speed that can be a huge nuisance for infantry. Infantry just can't stop chariots anymore. It used to be that chariots sometimes would just collide with infantry and get stuck. That doesn't seem to happen nearly as much. They push through a lot better. And they've generally got pretty good armor, these chariots do. So they hold up pretty well against stuff like Chaos Warriors, who do tend to be a little bit of an issue for the High Elves at times. Brutes of the Hound with 1,800 value is absolutely filthy work. Great stuff from them. Khorngor's totally collapsing the Storm Riders here. Looks like the Silver Helms are on their way out. The Fireborn are doing what they can. They've got 5,000 value. These Khorne Marauders need to just turn around and stay in this fight, because their leadership is getting really low. They'd be better served hanging in instead of getting constantly debuffed by being flanked, but looks like it's going to be a little too late for them. Chaos Warriors trying to hold on. The Warriors just don't hold as well as you would like them to. They do tend to be alright, but there's definitely instances where they feel a little lacking. That leadership penalty for Khorne is pretty brutal. -10 since Valkia did die. If she had run off the field, then the leadership penalty would be wearing off soon. That's not really the case right now. Khorne has to hold on to the number 2 objective. They ran too far off of it. High Elves have secured all the other points on the field, losing the number 3 to that Handmaiden. Ending up being a bit of a problem. The High Elves are doing a good job of circumventing Khorne as well. Fleshhounds do get on the point. The Khorngors are trying to escape. There is a potential chance that the leadership could fall apart for these guys. Did Chark seriously win this game? Skarbrand tapped... Why did Skarbrand tap out here? I'm confused. I'm Confucia. Wow, what a comeback. Honest to God, I really didn't think it was possible. 5,200... That's ridiculous. 5,200 value on the Fireborn. Okay. That's one way to win a game. I've never seen a unit carry quite that hard in my life, but I'm nonetheless impressed. That's genuinely incredible. Holy crap. What's up, Chim? How's it going, dude? Yeah, seriously. It's more like 350 in terms of price for that guy. You know, $2 is a bit of an exaggeration, but he literally is about 550 gold. Just sits there and just profits endlessly. Would have killed to get Valkia. Yeah, Valkia is really fun. I love her to death. I still think she's a top-tier option. She's just so good. at fighting big monsters with her demon shield up. I really do think that Skarbrand would have won that game if they hadn't conceded, but they did, and I really do guess that that means Sharks advances, which is wild. I thought that Khorne had it in the bag, but that's like the classic Khorne curse, man. You just go too hard in the paint and you overextend yourself, and your opponent somehow stays even and claws their way into the game against you. Oh, I'm heartbroken. Alright, let's get these other replays downloaded. We're fast approaching finals, folks. Still a few more games to go before we get there. Let's go watch some Wood Elves. I know we've got a few Wood Elf games in here. Just drop some more stuff in here. I want to see what we've got on tap. Honestly, holy crap. Okay, this is this is gonna be cool. So we've got Drycha here. He's bringing Occam's Mind Razor on for the Lore of Shadows. Seriously, Melkoth's is always a very good option. You never seen Occam's Mind Razor. This is a spell that never gets played, dude. Let's go, Tom. Wicked cool flex. Wood Elves actually are really strong against Norska. Norska has a really tough time against the Wood Elves. Wood Elves have so many snares and so many fire damage and poison units that the mobility for Norska tends to fall apart. And they can't use their javelins and horsemen as much as they would like here because of the range on all of these missile units for the Wood Elves. I mean, you've got 170 on Glade Guard. The Hagbane Tip Riders that you see out here, sorry for the bad camera movement. Trying to get settled in. These guys have 150 range. They got magic damage too, and magic damage completely circumvents the Fizz Res that Norska is so reliant on. You know, a lot of their units have the Rage mechanic, which gives them Fizz Res as they fight. They've got Skin Wolves that have an innate, I think it's 20% physical resistance. And Wood Elves just have a million units that get around that. I mean, it's literally an all magic damage army here for Tom. Drycha with their evil Treekin army. It's going to be settling up on the point. A beautiful Melkoths on the Beast of Tashnar here. Overextending a bit. These hounds can't really afford to get shot up or hit by magic all that much because their HP is... it's okay for a mobile unit. It's a little bit weak on 80 models, but it's really the leadership that's the problem for hounds. They've got 48, and this is an ROR, too. You look at a standard Norscan Warhound, and they've got next to nothing at 38. I will say hounds, well microed, can be really strong. I just don't know if they're a good choice against the Wood Elves for how squishy the leadership is, and how quickly they can get shot to bits by missiles. 15% missile resistance really isn't all that much. Ice Trolls just hanging out in front of the formation. They can definitely afford to eat missile fire. They've got regen. It's going to be very hard to kill them with Glade Riders. Norscan Ice Trolls also have better armor than your standard forms. 60 as opposed to, I believe, 30 for baseline troll units. Starfire Shafts are going to be the real danger for these trolls because the fire damage is going to weaken the healing by 50% and they get 20% extra damage. Once you start getting all the missile fire online from Tom, that's where these trolls are going to start to struggle. They've taken a little bit of poke, still hanging in nice and easy. You got a massive flank overload attempt coming in here. 3 Norscan Warhounds, or not Warhounds, Ice Hounds. And then the Feral Manticores. Keep calling them hounds. They're Ice Wolves, for fuck's sake. I mean, come on, man. I'll get it right one of these days. But they're going to look to get around the flank here. It's going to be a little hard. I mean, Treekin are not a great unit by any means, but they are a high mass roadblock. I mean, they got 1,500 mass, 16 models, ton of HP, great melee defense, and decent weapon strength. It may not be armor piercing, but with all of the other things they've got going for them, like Fizz Res, missile resistance, there's no way an Ice Wolf is ever going to be able to tangle with a Treekin effectively. And Trolls are going to actually struggle to break through the hard wood here. Despite having the good AP values to get around the 90 armor, the Fizz Res is going to be a nice bulwark for additional defenses. And look at the damage coming down from the arrow fire, just immediately focusing with all of the missiles here, brutalizing the poor ice trolls. Marauders are going to come trickling in now. One of them gets tangled up on the Treekin, and the Fireborg Elders will be able to beat a Marauder no problem. Champions will be a little bit tougher, but shouldn't be anything Treekin can't survive against. Brutal Burning Head on the Starfire Shafts. Good dodge from the Wild Hunters of Kurnus, just avoiding that. Ice Wolves do break into the backline a bit, but Dryads are collapsing on the angles here. They're cutting off the retreat at the very least, and you are getting some really good damage. Dryads have fallen off from the heyday in Warhammer 2, where they were probably one of the best units in the game, for their price point especially. They're a little bit more reasonable now. They don't just auto-win against all chaff. They're still pretty good at killing mobile units at times. They're a good answer for when you need something decently quick and aggressive, and they can still fight fairly well even against some trickier units like Marauder Champions, just because they have physical resist and ITP, so they don't terror route ever, which is honestly something you need to keep in mind for Norska. Norska has a lot of terror-causing units that they can use. Fireborg Elders just hanging in, continuing to scrap against Marauders now. Probably not a lot of value. 360 is actually a lot more than I was expecting, truth be told. But not anything crazy for sure. Marauder Champions fighting Dryads and the other Treekin unit here. Trycha is very healthy, but has to tangle with Throg now. Throg is going to be a little too much for her to handle. But the mobility advantage is swinging towards the Wood Elves pretty decisively, I would say. The front line for Norska is looking very beat up. You've got one Marauder Champion here and another back here that's a little bit more beat up than their counterpart on the high ground. Mana Core is being shut down by the Wild Hunters of Kurnus, who have also helped push off all the Wolves now. Missiles are pretty much dead for the Wood Elves, but they've got Wildwood Rangers, and they are a great sword infantry piece, and they're excellent at clearing out stuff like Marauder Champions. Just huge weapon strength and melee attack being the selling point for them. And they are actually getting the benefits of their ability here, because there is a terror-causing unit on top of them right now. So they're getting a weapon strength and melee attack buff right now. And being able to scrap against the Feral Mana Core right now is doing them some good. Definitely is giving them an opportunity to get a little bit of value, and just being able to occupy it here while the Wood Elves are trying to clean up everything else is great for them. Wildwood Rangers up on the flank, Malevolent Dryad Summon coming out, Norska and Ice Trolls hanging in. Their leadership broke earlier, but they've rallied and they're back in the fight. A lot of Dryads underneath the Treekin right now, so the Skin Wolves are struggling a bit. They are armored, so they're not suffering too badly for fighting the Treekin and the Dryads, but again, their Fizz Res is really not coming into play, and that is a bit of an issue. Another Wild Rider summon and a Glade Rider. Tom's starting to walk away with a value lead, and it looks like a lot of that is because Throg has just gotten his ass handed to him. Wildwood Rangers and Hunters of Kurnus and Drycha being a little bit too much for the Troll King to handle here. He is broken, no chance for him to rally either. There's nothing to peel any of this off of him. So he's going to be fully chased off the field. There's going to be a big leadership penalty, and that's going to ruin the Trolls. Trolls already have bad leadership, and if they don't break from being attacked in the rear here, when the -16 hits them from Throg running off, that'll be it for them. It looks like they'll break anyways. Really good collapses from Tom. And the Burning Head has just been a bit of a hit and miss spell this game. Not nearly as effective this time around as I've seen in the past from the Norskins. I think Pandameister might be casting him a little too hastily is the issue, but that does come with the Wood Elves just putting so much pressure on you from a distance. You tend to maybe overestimate the fighting prowess of your front line and can run into a bit of a brick wall if you're fighting all these Dryads and high leadership units, right? The Treekin have done excellent work this game. They really have done a great job of helping the Dryads value trade. You can see great value on these guys. 925 on a Dryad is pretty nasty business. It's a 550 gold unit. Uptrading that much is a really good indicator for success. These Treekin haven't gotten a lot of value, but have soaked up a lot of damage. Firebark Elders here got about 600. They're a little more expensive, but they've still held nicely. Ice Wolf Chariot just swarmed out by cavalry and mass, and then they just get ripped apart. This is how you kill the chariots. You get the Glade Riders and the Wild Riders just collapsing on either side and not allowing them to maneuver around freely. And they just slowly get dragged down at that point. Even if your cavalry just spend, like, you know, 2 or 3 minutes blobbing up on the chariots, it's still good value if it's something like a Glade Rider. It's a 550 gold unit on top of a 900 gold piece, not allowing them to get any value while you slowly accrue some. That's almost always a trade that's worth it. Wild Riders have good enough stats that they can actually kill the chariots, and do so fairly timely, I think. Wild Hunters have AP, so they just absolutely delete these things. Had a unit of Zotes in reserve, too, which is kind of cool. Alright, guys. I think we're 2 games away from finals now. Let's take a little peek. Alright, bracket, what do you look like? Okay, we're in the semis now. We got time for maybe one more replay. Depends on how long it goes. I just can't believe that Charix won this. I'm stunned. Just thinking about that game. Valkia sucks? Nah, Valkia not bad. Valkia good. Valkia very cost effective. And Sleipnir is a really good item still. You have to be careful with Valkia. Valkia is somebody who can get bullied. That is a risk. If people call you out on having her and they go really hard for sniping her, that's where Valkia gets a lot worse. But people are preparing for Skulltaker so much that they're bringing answers for him, and Valkia is actually pretty good against a lot of the answers for Skulltaker, in my opinion. Oh, what am I doing? Here we go. Did just watch the Wood Elves. It'd be interesting to see how that one plays out. What else have we got, though? I'd like to see what happened with this Charix Resto game. I believe this is the second round game for Charix. Or actually, no, this is the first round, because it's on Osuchi Castle. Curious to see how Charix breaks this Empire formation down. So it's going to be Volkmar. He's got 3 Flagellants. We've got the Silver Bullets. They might be one of the required pieces. Possibly. Let's actually see. I'm looking at the Empire right now. Oh, it's 3 Flagellants and a Witch Hunter. Okay. Interesting. I mean, you don't see Witch Hunters much anymore. Once upon a time, these guys had like a... Once upon a time, Accusation was Spirit Leech. Just literally did the same damage as Spirit Leech. Now it's a Hex. It's a really powerful Hex. One that, against the High Elves, could be fairly effective. We'll see about it, though. Volkmar the Grim is on foot, not on his War Shrine, which is an interesting choice. The War Shrine is really hard to kill, honestly. The Jade Griffin just turns Volkmar into a damage sponge, man. And he is unbreakable in the chariot as opposed to on foot, where he can actually end up routing, is another thing. Empire's really bad if they don't have their lords, because their leadership is mediocre across the board. They don't hold too well. Silver bullets coming out. Hockland long rifles opening up a beautiful volley on the Rangers, who get they get hit pretty hard. They're pretty functional. It looks like Charks is gonna just, you know, sit them out here, dodging back and forth to try and avoid as much damage as possible. Gonna cap and then run them off. It's a pretty good call. You do definitely want to get the extra tickets while this very slow Empire army is pushing. Because you do have fairly decent units available to just sit and hold a point. Spearmen tend to outclass state troopers of any kind, just because they have much better stats. The melee attack is a little disappointing on the Elf Spearmen, I will say. It'd be nice if Elven Spearmen had more like 25 melee attack or something to reflect their, you know, skills and whatnot. But what are you going to do? Have everything in the world? I guess not. Double Noble, or the Noble in the Handmaiden, going right for the Witch Hunter, getting up in his face and beating up pretty nicely on him, but a really good net of Ammontok going down. The unfortunate issue for the Empire here, their punish options are limited. You don't want to run the Spearmen in here, because then your Hawk and the Long Rifles can't shoot these characters. By that same token, though, even though these guys are taking a bunch of damage, you've still got the heals coming down from Alariel. We'll see if the snipe is able to finish these guys. We saw it last game where there were some really good plays on the other side early, but Charks is just so good at scrapping back, even in the face of early losses. But the Handmaiden dies completely. Noble pulls back, pretty beat up for all the effort. Alariel's also pretty wounded. Rangers getting into the Spearmen, doing some decent damage. These Spearmen pulling back away from the High Elf counterpart. A little bit of Hawkland fire coming in from the flanks, doing some very good damage right now. Those piercing missiles tend to rack up value on really tight, packed infantry. That's the High Elves in a nutshell, right? Sisters of Avalorn waiting a million miles away from the points right now. I mean, the Empire is not taking any objectives, except for this number 1 right now. They're at a pretty significant deficit in terms of the points right now. They have a huge value lead, though.
Woeful tidings.
They do get the flip.
One of your victory points.
Chark's well on their way to just being able to hang in for a one-objective victory, though. We'll see if the long rifles are able to close ground. I think this is where you need to get a little bit faster with your formation movement. You want to make sure everything stays in a nice, even-keeled box, because you don't want to spread out. Your infantry are pretty thin for how many missiles you have. Especially with the Flagellant staying way in the back here. They need to plug these gaps that are going to develop in the Empire front line. The Hawklands can take ground, and they'll do massive damage to the Sisters, for sure. They'll be able to keep them back, too. The Sisters are opening up on the Spearmen. Spearmen getting nuked pretty bad. See what kind of concentration of firepower we'll get from them. Reiksguard coming up, a Pistolier out on the flank, and we've got Illyrian Reaver Archers to answer those guys. Good option for the High Elves. Illyrian Reaver Archers, massive range, one of the better bow cavalry in the game. Pretty close to being one of the best. They're a little bit more expensive than some of the other options. Or actually, never mind. No, they're not. They're 600 gold. They're pretty in line with all the other horse archers in the game. I still think the Wood Elf option is better, and, actually, I think they might be the second best, because they outclass the Kislev version. The Wood Elf option is only better because they have, better range, and they tend to be a little bit more accurate than the High Elf variant. They do end up being pretty, efficient on the whole, though. brutal charge coming in here. Look at the Reiksguard getting melted by the Warlions of Trace. Oh my god. What kind of damage is that? It's a beautiful use of, oh, it's the Shield of Thorns. Beautiful wombo combo on the spell choice there. Reiksguard with their charge bonus delete themselves because they're hitting against the melee damage reflection. They get Faw's protection as well, and the Star of Avalorn. They're full health, basically, after that fight. Not one model lost, 1,300 HP down, but looking good, all things considered. Rahagri's Pride doing a lot less well, though. They have run into a unholy blob of Empire units, but it is giving an opportunity for a full collapse coming in from the angles. Look at all of the units worming their way into this backfield area. Despite being at a numbers disadvantage, Chark's doing a great job of collapsing on this position. Lyran Reavers fighting the Silver Bullets and a Hawkland Long Rifle, doing their best to finish the high elf units here. Empire Knights collapsing in now. Looking to do some good damage, but getting hit by the Sisters of Avalorn from afar. Not a lot to threaten these right now. One Flagellant occupying a Sister over here. But we do have the Sisters out here in the midfield, looking very secure. There's a few irritants nibbling on their flanks, but definitely nothing that's going to shut them down in any serious way right now. Archers collapsing on the flank, but Empire Knights do intercept just in time. The Hawklands are all in big trouble. Two of them are routing right now. They've got a decent number of models left, I guess. One looking a little bit better in terms of HP. Still, though, the Empire cannot get their second objective. They're desperately using these Flagellants to try and push the number 2. Not finding a whole lot of ground, though. Dragon Princes making their way in. Should be able to bully the Flagellants and clean up some of these Empire Knights. Empire going hell for leather, trying to get after the Sisters now. Going to be a beautiful charge from these Empire Knights. Big damage going down on those Sisters, but a good collapse on the rear of those Empire Knights with the light cavalry. Probably going to break their leadership fairly quick. And we'll see how the Empire is able to find a way to get these objectives. They just don't seem to be taking enough ground. They've got a good core of units left. God, why is this Hawkland Long Rifle still running? What is wrong with these guys? They're so far away from everything. I think it's just because this Noble was tangling with the cannon crew back here, and that is kind of irritating. This Noble might be able to kill the cannons. It's already taken one down. The other three over here are trying to get in position to open up, but they just can't find an opportunity with this character running over them right now. They'd be an excellent answer to the Dragon Prince unit. Dragon Princes are a little beat up. They've definitely taken some casualties. Shots on the off angle onto this Dragon Prince unit right now would be clutch as hell for the Empire. It could be the make or break moment for them. They're flipping the cap weight a little bit on the number 2, but they're not finishing their fights quickly enough. Can Chark somehow hang on to this? I mean, I counted him out one time already. I'm hesitant to do it, even though the value lead is even more lopsided. Illyrian Reavers coming out with a free charge off on the Silver Bullets here, and the Hawkland Long Rifles also in danger. And the cannon crew goes down. The Illyrian Reaver Archer is able to jump out there and take him out. About 1,000 value on those guys. I'm going to have to restart. I don't know why my game is being so choppy all of a sudden. I'll need to check my settings. Hawkland Long Rifles going down. They're getting shredded. Oh, it's so brutal, man. Good push through. Stirland's Revenge would be a pretty good option to fight. They're a decent unit in combat. In melee combat, I should say. Definitely not the most well-tuned thing in the world for withstanding the assault of a light cavalry unit that's got fairly good sustained stats themselves. It looks like Chark's prioritizing supporting the front line a little bit more. We do have the Empire taking the number 2. Chark's desperately throwing stuff at the wall now. Storm Riders are being run off into the Shadow Realm by a Spearman. This is amazing for Rusto. I think Rust is going to be able to take this game. I think we finally found the answer to the High Elves. Surely, right? I mean, come on. The Empire is not going to be losing this one, are they? I'm going to call shenanigans otherwise. So, Illyrian Reavers get a good cycle charge in on the Sterlins. They came back from this fight where they cleaned up those Empire or Reiksguard Knights. Another Reiksguard comes out and does flatten them, though. Very good counter charge coming in from Rust right there. Noble has done good work, for sure, but only 800 value at the end of the day. Don't ask me where the Handmaiden of the Everqueen is. I lost track of her ages ago. That's just, you know, classic me. I'm pretty sure she went down to the character squad here. Witch Hunter with good value. Volkmar just running around on foot being annoying. Hasn't had any attention paid to him this game, really. He's also gotten about 800 on the value ticker there. Light Mage has just dropped Nets of Ammontok. They've been fairly effective. I wouldn't say they've been filthy or anything, but solid incremental value from the engagements that it's made available for the Empire. Usually is more than enough. If I had to put a value sticker on the Nets of Ammontok, I'd say it's probably netted about 1,000 value for that caster overall. Maybe even a little bit more. You did have a really good catch out in the on the number 1 really early on. Maybe it's more like 12 or 1,400. Reiksguard moving up to the number 3, desperately trying to take it. I mean, Charx just has to hold one objective to run out the clock here, but I don't think it's going to be possible. There's just not a unit that can get here quickly enough. Now, the Fireborn will win on this flank very quickly. Provided, of course, they get 1v1 engagements. If Reiksguard collapse from both flanks, that's where the Fireborn may get rolled up on. Typically speaking, it doesn't matter how elite a unit is, if there's a 2v1 occurring, that's where they tend to fall apart. The only exception is the Bloodwake Berserkers and other units that have immune to flanking. Those are circumstances where a unit will just beat anything that it comes into contact with, because they don't take any penalties from being surrounded. Rangers getting pretty rowdy here on the number 1 objective. The Empire is losing momentum here. Noble comes back to kill the Witch Hunter, actually. What a sneaky little fellow. Just made his way all the way back around and is doing what he can here to clutch this game up for the High Elves. If they capture the number 1, they still have time to be able to win on single cap. The Fireborn are a big problem. 2 Reiksguard here looking to pay attention to dragging them down, but look at the damage that they're doing here. This unit is kind of crazy. Just saying it now so that everybody knows my thoughts. Fireborn, pretty freaking nuts. They're just so elite that they hit that plateau where it becomes difficult to tackle them with chaff of any kind. Their stats are out of this world for a cavalry unit, 45 and 53. Crazy good weapon strength with a good AP split, and bonus versus large at 15 is very substantial for cavalry. Blood Crushers only have a plus 10, and that's a pretty good unit after all the buffs. Then you've got to factor in all the healing the Fireborn can get. This is about as awful of a fight as you'll ever see a cavalry unit have to take. You've got multiple infantry units, multiple cavalry units on both flanks, and they've still somehow managed to just about pay for themselves. Just about everything else, including Blood Crushers, would have broken long ago, I think. Illyrian Reavers cleaning up on the number 1. Is it enough time? Razor close on the tickets. Oh my god, Spearman going for the number 3. Not enough out there to hold on to that for the Empire. Wow. Charix hanging in and somehow finding a way to put pressure on 2 objectives at once. Slow pushing infantry on one side and then throwing up some Illyrian Reavers to try and grab that number 1. Very close to flipping for the High Elves. They have a bare edge on this objective right now. The Empire Knight's being buffered off by an Illyrian Reaver as well. And I think that's actually going to give enough time for the High Elves to flip the number 1 and take the number 3 here. Nothing to threaten the number 3 for the Empire either. Oh, this is disastrous. Oh my god. Charix with the cheap cavalry play is somehow going to be walking away with another freaking win. This is criminal. It's criminal. He can't keep getting away with this. He's still got the ticket lead as well, and the Empire's barely hanging on to the number 2 if you really look at it closely. This Alarielle play is really sick. I mean, she's done a great job of sustaining. The healing has been very consistent. The Illyrian Reaver play is really the sharpest thing about Charix, I would say. Just these cavalry are never stationary for more than a few seconds. They're constantly finding new engagements to jump into, and they're doing a great job of collapsing the flanks on a lot of these fights as well. Empire trying to take the number 1, but they just can't get it in time. The Reichsguard able to jump on the number 3. Charix moves off with both spearmen. I think he could have just pushed one and held out here with the other. Just to minimize the odds of losing. I mean, all you needed to do is just hold on to these points as long as possible. And I think Charix is going to be able to take it, but a really, really competitive game from Rust. I think just having any kind of infantry presence on these outside points in the middle of the match here would have been a good hedge against these cavalry caps and the slow infantry pushes that came out and stole these points away from him. Oh my god, that's just high IQ gaming. Like, Charix's situational awareness is gross. Oh yeah, the Handmaiden died in the first engagement. That's where she went. I just completely blanked on that. That's where a lot of the value on these Hochlands came from. Good value on all the missiles, good value on the Sterlins. Hammer of the Witches going down was really painful. That noble got away with murder this game. Got 1,800 value. Low-key, the goated unit for the High Elves here. Carried more weight than any of these other units for sure. MVP performance from that guy. Killed the Hammer of the Witches. Killed a ton of cavalry. Killed the Witch Hunter too. Volkmar, he was solid. He just ran around and ground out about 1,000 value, which is respectable enough, I suppose. Rust's cavalry play was damn good, but they just couldn't carry it. They didn't have those objectives on lock in the late game. Drads at 550 are still crazy. I agree. There are matchups that they used to dominate in. They're a little less powerful in now, though. Valkia is mostly useless unless you want Spear, since she loses. Well, Spear is so good that I do love her for it. She's weak to Spirit Leech and Tempest. There are definitely complaints to have with Valkia. She's got awful mass. I'm not saying she's, like, super duper top tier, but I do think that she's a very competitive choice. I think she's just off of Skull Taker in terms of viability. That's my hot take. I know people just bring Skull Taker and forget about everybody else, but I'm telling you, Valkia has applications still. Alright, we should be in the finals now. Dude, Charix's games have been absolute marathons. Insane. Insane play from him. Just absolutely cracked stuff from Charix in the 2 matches we've watched. Let's see if they've already started without me for the finals. If they have, that's fine. I didn't think that game was going to take nearly as long as it did. I mean, that's got to be up there with longest domination games out there right now. Get away from that. So we don't give up the ghost. Ironic for the vampire counts. Pun fully intended. Not really, but there we go. I got you, brother. I got you, boss. Stream is on a delay, by the way. So you're catching up after the fact. Here's one last thing about Valkia Skarbrand. She may be weak to all of those things that you've stated, but she's a really good bait tool. I cannot tell you how many times I've beaten people who have overestimated their unit's efficiency against Valkia and trapped them on the ground because they over-pursued her. You just have to play defensively with Valkia. She's an excellent defensive lord. Skulltaker is who you bring if you want to be aggressive and have like a breakthrough style of strategy. Valkia facilitates kite play really well. Way better than Skulltaker, who just doesn't quite get around the field fast enough. He's still pretty good in kite builds, but I think Valkia surpasses him just a little bit. Norskan Giant out here on the field. Not a required unit for Wolfric, right? Let me go take a little peek. Yeah, definitely not. Just the champions and the berserkers, the requirement for Norska, but bringing one nonetheless. I mean, giants are pretty cool. They definitely do some pretty good damage with their weapon strength. It'll be a good centerpiece. Also, basically impossible to route. It's got 100 frickin' leadership. It doesn't have ITP or anything. At 100 leadership, though, you basically have to get the giant down to like 3,000 HP before this thing is going to start wincing at any kind of surround or bad fight. They're really, really solid. I do like it for beating down like the White Kings and even Kemmler if they're a little too incautious. You'd be surprised at how cocky people can get with units that have a speed advantage on you. Like, people will take risky fights with giants really close by just because they think that they can outspeed this thing, but if they get one shot in with that weapon strength and they actually hit through it, they're taking a serious chunk of your HP out. I would say that Norska's best bet here is to just play really aggressively into their kite. They've got horsemen. Boss has godly micro with Marauder horsemen. Do need to be careful of the frostbite. The chill guys are closing the gap a little bit, and you can see the chilling aura does have those horsemen on the verge of being caught there, but really nice point-blank damage. X-Wraiths losing a substantial amount of HP so far. Not the end of the world. Just get a good invo on top of both of these guys, and they'll be, you know, back up to full mostly. You know, won't be looking too much the worse for wear. Pretty good dodge on the Scab Scraith. It does poke through and get some decent damage on the Berserkers, but Boss just force pathing these guys away from the White King so they don't blob up and get nailed by the cone was a really small thing, but ultimately I think one of those kind of plays that can end up making a big difference for you in these kinds of games. Hexrace and the Chill Guys actually able to collapse onto one of the Marauder Horsemen here. This unit is going to get ripped to pieces. They are down to 36 speed. There's no way they're going to be able to escape from all of this. What kind of a response are we going to get? Beasts of Tashnar coming in. Actually a really good summon. These guys have Frenzy, so their ITP when their leadership is high. And they are going to be effective against this 0 armor Hexwraith. Doesn't matter if you got 55% Phys Res. Anti-large is anti-large, and they do have good melee attack. So they're getting around that really low 33 melee defense quite easily. And look at the damage coming in from the Beast of Tashnar. Racking up the value pretty nicely. And the Hexwraith is just so far out of position here. There's no way they're going to escape now because just because you cause Frostbite doesn't mean you're not immune to it, you know? Chill Guys here are going to have a very hard time unengaging from this fight, with the Ice Wolves staying in lockstep with them. Dire Pack getting out here for Maximilianaire and going to intercept a little bit. But I think the numbers might still win out here for Norska. Heinrich Kemmler could flip this, though. He does have the Chaos Tomb Blade, I'm sure. Yeah, big heal potential. Beautiful Invocation of Nehek, fully upgraded, hitting all of the units in this pocket. There is Terror on the table for the Hex Wraiths as well. What was a pretty good fight for Boss could quickly become a liability here. You get a good retreat. Most of the chill guys can escape. Actually, a lot of them tangled up in here. I think most of them are going to get dragged out here, actually. I don't know how much HP they're going to have to work with. And it looks like Heinrich Kemmler and his low mass actually getting stuck up on the Ice Wolves. Ice Wolves with the 700 mass, able to lock in this very, very squishy low mass Lord. Dire Pack come over to try and help him peel, and they are able to facilitate his escape there. Wulfric is getting hounded by the White Kings now. Wulfric is a decent duelist. He really isn't the one to take head-up scraps all that well, honestly. He's there to drop Seafang more than anything, I would say. Double White King, they just have so much HP and heal potential that they'll beat him 9 times out of 10. Norska does have the 2 objectives here, the number 1 and 2. Berserkers hanging on to the number 2, being very disciplined about staying in here. It's just super hard for the Vampire counts right now to hang on to the objectives with the good cap weight that's on the field for Boss. You do get the Cairn Wraiths moving over. They're going to be a bit of an issue for the Berserkers. Cairn Wraiths may not be the best units in the world for sustained melee combat, but they do have Terror. If they can get a good collapse from either side and lower the leadership enough on the Berserkers, they could Terror out them, because the ITP is tied to the Frenzy. Yeah, Berserkers going down. They did get about 500 value. Not, you know, paying for themselves, but a respectable performance for how far away they were from any kind of support. Giant gets on top of the Cryptors and gets a nice shot in, doing some great damage right now to him. These things are crazy tanky for a Monsters unit. Most Monsters Infantry have about 8,000 HP. These things have close to 10k, which is insane for something that also has regen. Really nice final transmutation. Upgraded, hitting Old Heinrich and the White King here. Also, lowering the Hex Wraith's HP enough to get them to crumbling status here. The Chill Geists are going to be going down. I don't think there's any way of saving them. At the last second, though, the leadership rallies on them. Dire Pack pulling out. Skinwolves catching one of the White Kings. Huge loss for the Vampire counts. And I definitely don't think that they've got the goods to be able to peel for that guy right now. It's going to come down to their push on the number 2, potentially. You still have Marauder Horsemen out here on this flank. They're doing a good job of shooting down the Cryptors right now. Mortis Engine tangling in the front line, though, going to become a big problem. That Mortis Engine effect is disgusting. Huge value potential on this unit. And there's a bit of a threat overload on this middle point. You've also got a Corpse Cart here. Just a standard Corpse Cart, not the Unholy Lodestone. Just giving the Vigor Mortis to everything around it. So there's Perfect Vigor on the table. Especially important for the Mortis Engine, so that its speed stays up and it doesn't lose a bunch of combat stats. But really good focus fire from the Horsemen. Doing a great job of pulling this thing down. 3,600 HP on it. It is going to be healing itself thanks to the regen. No other stacking heals on it right now, though. Or actually, I think it's getting the benefit of its own Reliquary binding. It doesn't say that in the tooltip. Oh, never mind. It's just the 0.2 healing. I thought I could have sworn it was at 0.2, not 0.1. Regardless, though, it's in a pretty good position. The value is not looking great for the Vampire counts, though. They can be down by 4,000 value and be just fine at times, but Boss is doing a good job of tearing apart the Cryptors. This one is going down really hard to the Skinwolves, and the Skinwolves at 1,300 value and 22 models. They can definitely pull back and regen for a little bit before re-engaging to lock down some more mobility elsewhere. One Blood Knight on the field. Blood Knights are an excellent option against Norska. They're really strong against Skin Wolves, but they also have good enough stats in melee combat to function as kind of a, you know, ersatz shock cavalry unit. I mean, they just got great charge bonus, weapon strength, good melee attack. Their bonus is really what makes them so good against large targets, but in a pinch they can run down the Berserkers, but their charge is very scattered. They don't quite land at home against the Berserkers, and then they get countercharged by the Skin Wolves. And with the Skin Wolves on their rear, even though they've pushed up into the Marauder Horsemen, these Horsemen are basically out of ammo. They might not be able to stick in this combat as long as they really are going to want to. Mortis Engine going down hard here. Looks like the Hunter Javelins are able to get enough damage on this thing to get it into the crumbling state. And it is going to be going down. Lord Dead penalty as well, so it looks like Kimmler was brought low somewhere on the battlefield here. Not 100% sure where. Probably somewhere around the White King. Is this him? Here's Kimmler. Kimmler got, evil Gandalf got knocked off his noble steed by the Giants or the Brutes of the Hound or something over there. Maybe the Manticore. Manticore not doing terrible. It's got about 500 value. Boss just doesn't let units get routed before they get some kind of value. I never ever see Boss's units get broken before they get at least half their value back. It is exceptionally rare. Berserkers here still got about 500 value. You got Chariots out there hanging in. Ice Wolves, pretty good performance. Horseman here with about 300. Wolfric just trundling about in the back line. Not committing anywhere, just staying alive is the most important thing you can do. A fresh Blood Knight. This one over here with about 900 value, doing pretty well. Are the Blood Knights in the late game going to be the carry tool? Norska is pretty beleaguered on the infantry front. And they've brought out more horsemen now. Boss has about 500 supplies in the bank. That's not a lot, and there is a Crypt Ghoul that's going to be going for the back cap here. Ice Wolf Chariots waiting in the wings potentially, though. Pretty smart to leave them there just in case. Perhaps waiting for a summon of a unit that they can run down, because they don't have a lot of targets, honestly. Like, an Ice Wolf Chariot to run down a bunch of crappy zombies is not really worth their time, considering it's a 100 gold unit. I mean, you do need to work on capping that middle point just to round out this game, because the pressure on the outside objectives is getting pretty hairy right now. Icehorn Marauders are going to be answering the one Crypt Ghoul here. Definitely want to hold on to the number one there. The Blood Knights are giving time for this flip to come in, but the Vampire Counts are losing all of their staying power, and it's going to be just one Blood Knight left on the field, basically, with a couple of very lonely Crypt Ghouls. And Crypt Ghouls are a decent unit. I've swung around on them from being total ass to being reasonably decent. The problem is that Boss is just going to finally have a target for these Chariots to run over. And they are going to farm Crypt Ghouls who have no armor and really no way to defend themselves from a Chariot. They've got 90 mass per model, which is abysmal. It's absolutely atrocious mass. Even Marauder Spearmen have more. I guess that's what happens when you're like an anemic corpse eater. You know, I don't imagine these guys are very well fed on a regular basis, and they just don't look very healthy. You know, they've got some serious problems going on, but they're doing their best. Chariots, like I said, just getting a full charge right down the flank and chunking their HP, taking them almost down to half, which is just disgusting. You gotta love the Chariot play. Looks like that's gonna be a tap out for Maximilian. Just seeing the Chariots ripping apart the ghouls was enough to convince Max that it was all but over. It was a really, really frisky game, but Boss is out here on his main, just putting in the work. Making moves, too. Brutes of the Hound are a good unit now, guys. I mean, look at the value on them. 1,600. I know there's not a lot of great threats on on the Vampire Count's roster for taking them down. Infantry-wise, like one Graveguard would be okay, but you've got to worry about all the mobility that Norska has, so you can't really commit to a Graveguard line. So really it comes down to your cavalry being able to shock down the Berserkers or the Crypt Horrors, grinding them out, or the Mortis Engine, but Boss just had all the answers on standby for working those down slowly but surely. Just nothing was able to find purchase for the undead here. And the Hex Race and the Chillgeists were just especially inefficient. Only 600 and 400 value on them. Cairn Wraiths actually ended up being a better tool for Max here. 1400 on this Cairn Wraith, 590 on the other. Both his Cairn Wraiths outperforming their cavalry counterpart, which you think wouldn't be possible, but proof is in the pudding, right? Wulfric just hid most of the game. He engaged a little bit, but playing very cautiously with him was the right call. Wulfric and Valkia are honestly very similar characters in a lot of ways. Both are ostensibly duelist characters that actually do tend to lose duels pretty hard if they don't take the right engagements. They've got wind items that get them the majority of their value. Valkia is a little bit better because she has magic and flaming attacks and an item that makes her invulnerable. It's pretty gross. Shaman Sorcerer with 1900 value. 1994 no less. A good year, indeed. I wouldn't remember it because I had literally just been born, but, you know, whatever. Probably just dropping Final Transmutation on the White Kings all game, and Kemmler with 200 value, but he's not really a value, it's not really a value generator. He just passively heals everything, and you really just try to outlast whenever you have Kemmler in your army. I think this was probably just a situation where Max got matched into a faction that honestly is going to be a little hard to handle when you've got inefficient units out there trying to put in work for you. It was really well played. I think there may have been an opportunity, but those damn dogs, dude. The Beasts of Tashnar were so clutch in the early opening moments of the game at running down the Chillgeists. Doesn't Terror basically provide ITP? Terror provides ITP, yeah. I need someone to send this game to see it as proof that... Look, all the ethereal units need buffs. Ethereals need to be better on the charge. Ethereal units need to be a, essentially like a gambit unit, where they are shock-oriented, they, you know, cause their terror and everything, and then they run people down, and they make it very hard to disengage. I really like that. I think CA is just a little too afraid to commit to the bit, honestly, which is why they tend to be underpowered. Because in campaign, the Ethereals can get really unmanageable. You can turn them into absolute walking nightmares in the campaign mode. It's just in multiplayer, their like buffs are non-existent. Like they don't really have any lords that truly support them. They don't have enough HP. They don't do enough shock damage. Their sustain stats are abysmal. And like I said, they don't do enough damage on the charge. If they had like 60 charge bonus, I think Hex Wraiths would be a great unit. It's really not a whole lot you'd need to change about them. Maybe make them a little more responsive. I know you don't want to give the Undead Cavalry too much in terms of mobility, because that is supposed to be the trade-off. Damn, they have 55 charge bonus and they're still this bad. Maybe it is just the turn speed then. Maybe it's the responsiveness that's the big issue. Just look at all the benefits that they've got. You'd think with flaming attacks, magic attacks, frostbite, 55 charge bonus, 42 all AP weapon strength, terror-causing, Strider, Vanguard deployment, Fizz res, 7,400 HP that they'd be okay, and they just aren't. Like, it defies logic. Looking at them on paper, you just don't see this as a unit that is going to perform as poorly as they do. Oh, the Chill guys do not have flamey attacks for some reason. Amazing. That is interesting. I guess because they have the chilling aura instead. God, that sucks, though. Very weird design philosophy. I just think CA doesn't know what to do with them. Karen rates are actually good right now. They were borderline good in the past. Just in a handful of matchups, though. Now they're honestly a fairly cost-effective unit, period. You know, I mean, anything that's got all that AP and is around the 800 mark is going to be able to make some kind of a decent impact. And I mean, 850 gold as opposed to 1400 in terms of cost basis. It's just more opportunities for Karen Race to trade up, because you can bring more of them out. They still cause terror. They've got the same... They've got more weapon strength than hex rates. Are you serious? What is this? CA, please. Stop trolling us. Anyways. That's all for the live portion of the tournament. We've got a little bit more time to do some, We've got more time to do some replays, though. Damn, Korn got double eliminated. Oh my god, that's so painful. Oh no. Alright. Well, Arball and Skulltaker are on the ticket for the future. Let me actually show you guys this. I'm gonna have to zoom out. Jesus Christ, it's so zoomed in. That's because I have the zoom on 200%, that's why. Okay. So, guys. This is what the Legendary Lords tournament looks like after our first tournament. We've got Heinrich Kemmler advancing. And we've got quite a few eliminations. So we've got Vlad, who's been eliminated, or, sorry, oh yeah, that's right, because the finalists both advanced. So even though Max lost here, he's still advancing. Boss just gets the extra kudos for being a cool guy and actually getting through to the future rounds with the qualifier win under his belt. So Vlad is eliminated for the Vampire Counts. Archeon done and gone for the Warriors of Chaos, which leaves only Kolek left, really. No other Lords gonna be available. Huh, okay. It's wild. Not even Sartorial? Sartorial is gonna be counting for Zinch instead of the Warriors of Chaos. Fair enough, okay. Drycha is eliminated. Got 3 Wood Elf Lords available. It was cool to see our Skaven player do as well as they did in that first game. And they did put up a good fight in the other one that we spectated. Skaven just a little bit weaker than most of the other factions right now. So unfortunately not able to carry it through. Epidemius eliminated. Poor Broccoli got absolutely... probably the worst matchup imaginable for the Lord that she picked, and had to play into the Chowie. Chowie have 2 Legendary Lords eliminated. Astrogoth is still available. No Beastman players, no Bretonia, no Dwarves. Most of the Empire outside of Volkmar available. Lokir got eliminated probably in the first round. Lokir is very hard to utilize character for the Dark Elves. Not impossible, but he's definitely pretty weak. Grimgor gone. Alariel and Teclis gone. Who beat Charix, by the way? I don't know how you beat Charix, because he was defying all odds this tournament. Oh, it was Boss. Boss Toss beat Charix. That would explain it. Do we have that replay? That'd be a really fun one to watch. I'm sure Charix is going to come back with a vengeance, though. Played really well, considering the incredibly bizarre requirements for Alarielle. I say bizarre not in the sense that they're not very fitting, since it's a bunch of Sisters of Avalorn and a Handmaiden. It makes sense thematically, it's just that's kind of hard to use. It's a lot of money to have to spend on super elite missiles. Having to skew so elite, it's kind of wild. Definitely something that can leave you behind in terms of numbers and momentum. Imagine losing with OP ogres with 4 lead belchers. Is that what the requirement was for the ogre kingdoms? Anyways, let me get away from that. So Thoril is the Zinch Lord and Aeon Realms. Okay, that makes sense. Village, who's the Wok Lord. Well, Village is also on the Zinch roster, which is a little awkward. Leaves Warriors of Chaos with one other option, so if you like Warriors of Chaos, you better be in the next qualifier event, because I actually think Kolek is going to go pretty quickly. Kolek isn't even a bad lord now. He's gotten a lot of buffs over time. I actually think that there's some matchups where he's pretty vicious, honestly. Oh, you have to take Greasus with 4 Iron Guts or Lead Belchers. Alright, Ogres are good, but Greasus is still dog water. I mean, he's just too freaking slow. I mean, Monster's Impact is cheesy and kind of cute, but it does not help him enough, in my opinion. I don't think Greasus is ever going to be good in Domination mode, unfortunately. 4 blunderbusses? Oh my god. Alright, I want to just see this. I get the feeling that this is where the vampire counts where Vlad got eliminated. Something tells me that the other supremely blobby faction that's vulnerable to missile play and artillery is going to lose to the kings of it, because you got, presumably, in the lore of Hashut here, for this Demon Smith sorcerer, you've got Flames of Asgore. I can't imagine bringing literally anything else. There's no reason to. You just blow up whatever blob develops with that. A double Death Shriek for whatever doesn't get killed by it. And then blunderbusses to delete anything approaching your artillery, I guess. Where is he? There he is. Oh yeah, we've got it. We've got it on standby, boys and girls. So Vargeist are going to be flying overhead. Really strong units. They do great damage to stuff like blunderbusses, but there's so many here. Actually collapsing on this position is going to be a little rough. You're going to have to build up a little bit before you can go in if you're the vampire counts here. The White Kings and Vlad, I will say, could move into the front line a little bit. Vlad is pretty survivable. I would honestly bring the Von Karstein ring on him into the Chaos Dowie, just because of the potential that they just delete him with missiles. At least the Von Karstein ring gives him 60% ward save. He could probably close the gap in the time that it's up.
Victory point. Keep it from the foe.
It does cost 200 gold, and 200 gold for the vampire counts does mean that, you know, you're missing out on some zombies or something, potentially, or you have to, like, downgrade one of your single entities a little bit. Ooh. Very fortunate that it got knocked down. Got knocked over by the first demo rocket, and then the second one misses because it got sat down on its ass. This is something that I've talked about a little bit in some of the newer player tournaments. But, I mean, hey, even for more experienced people, sometimes you don't really notice these inefficiencies at times. Double demo rocket on one target, oftentimes, if it's not a horse character and it's like an actual single entity, like these Vargulfs, usually what happens is what we saw just a minute ago, is the demo rocket that does hit knocks over the character, and then the second demo rocket doesn't actually do any damage. We'll see if it happens again. It's probably going to happen again. Gets knocked over. Second one actually follows up nicely, though, so I'm going to have to eat my words a little bit. Vargulf is in a lot of trouble, man. And no security on the #1 objective either. I mean, this Vargulf got punished for very little game. Basically nothing. The Ogla Khan's boys are just hanging out here, having a good time against him. Shot misses. Pretty good dodge with the Vargulf on that one. Demo rockets looking to be swapping targets now. Vargeist going to be in their sights. You just got to check the artillery ranges. I know you don't want to have to sit so far back, but it's almost always worth it to just keep such expensive units out of the line of sight of such powerful artillery pieces. They take down 2 Vargeists here. Pretty good value on those demo rockets so far. I mean, they've taken down multiple Vargeists. Almost killed the Vargulf. I mean, it's down to 3,300 HP now. Ogla Khan's boys have been very irritating. They've also gotten about 500 value. The Unholy Lodestone Corpse Cart wouldn't be a bad target right now for the Ogla Khan's boys. There's nothing to push them back right now. They're a fairly long-range unit. They got 140 meters range. Easily able to, like, scoot their way into a position to open fire on these things. Corpse carts are very vulnerable to skirmish cab, and these guys do imbue flammable, and corpse carts do have regen, so they're already weak to fire. So 40% weakness to fire attacks. On 45 armor with 4,900 HP. Just a few volleys from the Ogla Khan's boys and some other Wolf Raider archers would be enough to take those guys down. Blunderbusses, this is what I was afraid of. This is why I thought the Von Karstein ring would be a good idea. Vlad down to half health from one blunderbuss volley. Just absolutely roasting him right now. Demo rockets, or not the demo rockets, the Deathstreak rockets, whiffing on the ghouls a little bit, trying to close the gap onto the blunderbusses. Doing a pretty good job of making their way in, but the Bull Centaur Renders and Goblin Laborers holding up their momentum enough so that most of the blunderbusses are unobstructed right now. Good zombie summon out here on this flank against this unit. But Kadai Fireborn coming in, going to be able to keep the zombies off, and then you can just waddle these guys out here, I guess. Get them stacked up behind the other blunderbuss, which isn't a bad idea, because then you can shoot through this pocket and on any big targets that try to collapse on the blunderbusses. Lemur with a big value lead. Once again, man, just not able to collapse on the Chaos Dowie efficiently and quickly enough to be able to shut the shooting down. I feel like the blunderbusses, you know, a lot of them were occupied, but that's the point of bringing 4, right? One of them is going to be unoccupied long enough to just destroy and annihilate whatever they actually are able to shoot at. Good dive at the Fellbats, and there are zombies right here. The Ogla Khan's Wolf Boys have to charge the Fellbats, actually. Which is, you know, definitely not what they want to be focusing their time and energy on. A disgusting Flames of Asgore on the Blood Knights deletes them, and that is going to be a huge problem for the Undead. They were doing a decent job of staying competitive. This Bull Centaur Render was going down. The Blood Knights, at half health, could have gotten an invo from Vlad and then maneuvered out to maybe go after the Deathstreak rockets. Not having that opportunity now, and the Unholy Lodestones are both on death's door here. One is gone, and the other very close to crumbling out. Fellbat's looking to lock down the Death Shriek, and it's going to shut it down for a minute here, but not going to be much longer than that. The second the Ogla Khan Wolf Boys get the rear charge here, their Cowardly Despoilers is going to proc, and they'll have good enough weapon strength to pretty efficiently clear those Fellbats off. They don't have a lot of HP is the big problem for the bats. Scab Scraith hitting the Laborers, which is fine, but not a lot of value to be had there. I don't actually know about White Kings against the Chaos Dwarves. I think it might not really be worth the time and effort. Good Flames of Asgore, not nearly as good as the last one we saw, but still helping out the Kadai Fireborn. I mean, it's a lot of crappy infantry here, and what you really want to do is finish off this Vargulf and kill Vlad. Vlad is healing capped already. Pretty typical issue that he can run into. He's slow, so he can take a ton of damage from something like a blunderbuss, and then he'll be, you know, down to like half HP. And since he's on foot and his HP pool is fairly low, he'll heal cap really fast, and then he gets ground down in the mid game. So all of that theoretical survivability he has is oftentimes a little bit lost in translation. That was a worthy Sabscrape. That actually helped peel these hobgoblins off of the White King. There are a couple of blunderbusses alive. Not much in the way of firepower, but, I mean, 31 of these guys is still quite a bit of damage potential. They'll definitely be able to help peel for the backline. And I think it'll be a question of Lemur pushing back out, although it is getting a little hairy. With Cryptors making their way out onto the field, and the pressure on the back objective is a little bit rough. It's not capped away from the Chaos Dowey, thankfully. If they can just get rid of all of this chaff infantry with the Kadai Fireborn, and keep their demo rockets alive, or the, you know, whatever, the Deathstreak rocket launchers, if they can keep them alive so that they can shoot the Vargulfs and the Cryptars, then they'd be okay. That was another Flames of Asgore. If you're wondering why the Cryptars just got up there and look like they're dead now, it's just one filthy little spell cast. That's what makes Flames such a disgusting tool, because it's good against everything. The only thing that Flames of Asgore can't kill is single entities. And even there, it can do some good damage if you cast it directly under something. So those Cryptors got nuked, and then the Crypt Ghouls that followed up the charge didn't fare any better. They're both down to less than half HP. That regeneration is not going to be doing them much good either, because the Kadai do struggle against big targets. But they've got enough weapon strength and the flaming attacks that when they do make contact, it's gonna be pretty devastating for the horrors. They actually end up disintegrating there before the Kadai even get close to going below 25% HP and losing their Unbreakable. Blazing Body fully charged as well, so a ton of melee damage reflection available now for the Kadai, which in their current beleaguered state might end up being a big problem for these Cryptors. They could lose quite a bit of HP in this fight, even if they are winning it. A little bit of work going there. Zaytan being a troll and running away from Vlad. Vlad just can't do anything. I mean, he's got 1,000 value, which is okay. But there's much better Lord options for the Vampire counts. They would rather be playing Strigoi Ghoul King or something like that. Their legendary Lords are actually a little bit worse than their generics, ironically enough. Heinrich Kemmler is a little bit more meta than Vlad. I think the most effective legendary lord would be Manfred. Usually people go with the Strigoi Ghoul King or one of the Bloodlines Vampire Lords. They tend to do pretty well. Good shot from the Deathstreak rocket. Excuse me. Blunderbusses just never really got to set up. They got a little bit of value, nothing crazy though. Could have done a lot more work and damage. Vlad is running for his life, and the Kadai look to be trying to finish him off. Up top here, we finally get a cap on that number one, or a full hold on that number one objective. The Vampire Count's already capped it, but they killed the Kadai Fireborn that was threatening that point. The White Kings are doing good damage to the Deathstreak rockets now. EWRD did not flinch and has certainly not heard any bell to ring out the round. There's still a chance that the Vampire Counts can hold these points. It's going to be really difficult. I mean, they've got awful cap weight out right now. They got one Crypt Ghoul, and they got a bunch of zombies to reinforce the number 2. I actually think the Crypt Ghoul should have been rotated around on the other side, but Skeleton Spears will be a decent bulwark for the monstrous infantry and for the Blood Knights to play off of. Blood Knights need to stay mobile here. They cannot get hit by the Deathshriek rockets. Deathshriek, I hope swapping over to the demo rocket, because that's what's going to do good damage to the Crypt Horrors. Each demo rocket should kill a model, I'm pretty sure.
One of your units has been destroyed.
I mean, this thing has like 500 bonus versus large. It's already got pretty good missile damage. Should be able to do that. Lemur needs to prioritize swapping the ammo over ASAP.
One of your units has been destroyed.
This Deathshriek is going to be pummeling the infantry and EWRD, or Urwid, I don't know how to pronounce their name. I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced either. Letting the infantry blob up a lot, and they just get hammered there by that one missile. Kadai Fireborn take an awful fight against the Blood Knights. Should never ever engage Blood Knights with something like a Kadai Fireborn. Their melee attack is high enough to scrap with something that's weak to fire like Cryptars, but Blood Knights are a little bit out of their weight class. They still get some pretty good damage in. Maybe there's a heal for the Blood Knights. The Knights, though, are looking much better off, and the Skeleton Spears underneath, Bolt Centaur Renders, and then a good countercharge onto the flank could easily crush the leadership and HP on both of these units. And Skeleton Spears, Bolt Centaur Renders have next to no armor. I mean, 50 is okay, but against a crappy little spear unit that's actually able to poke against you, you can lose a lot of value on these Renders real quick. Is this going to be a win for the Vampire Counts? I mean, they lasted for ages out here on the number 3. And the counter-pushing is just not quick enough onto the number 2 objective here. I think Chaos Dwarves, despite getting good value early, the persistence by the Undead, and there you go, you get the Blood Knights, totally miss the charge. They turn right around, and they just absolutely dominate the Bull Centaur Renders here. And Vlad, somehow, still alive, sneaking in under the radar, hanging out, eating damage for breakfast, and just not giving up the ghost. Infernal Ironsworn do take the number 1. Oh, you got Blazing Beards of Basharik in here, too. Gonna be kind of hard to leave the number 1. I mean, there's still Spearmen here. They're not good cap weight, but it's something that you have to commit to keeping anything on this point, just to hold it down while you maneuver the rest of your infantry. It's desperation time for the Chaos Dwarves. They've got 3 seconds. Takes 20 seconds to cap the point anyways.
Unending glory is yours.
Honestly, a little surprised. I really thought the Chaos Dwarves were going to be able to rally up there, but good pressure from the Undead meant that the Blunderbusses were never able to really get any value. Just consistent waves of reinforcements kept dive bombing these guys, and kept them off balance long enough for them to be dragged down. Demon Smith Sorcerer with a ridiculous amount of value at 2,300. I mean, this guy on foot is like 600 gold. He costs nothing, even with a stupendously powerful spell like that. I don't think he gets up over 800 unless he's bringing some abilities or whatever. Right? How cheap is this dude? Let's just cut everything except for flames. Yeah, 750 gold is nothing for a caster. For how much value he got, tripling up on value is mega money, man. Greasus almost trapped and killed my character squad. Rampage is a little scary. That's true, but that is against the vampire counts. Vampire counts literally have no way of dealing with Greasus outside of just avoiding him. Greasus being able to lock down an entire point against the vampire counts is pretty nice. That's really one of the only matchups, though, where Greasus isn't going to have to worry about getting shot by something. Yeah, Kimmler and Manfred, Vlad, Isabella, and Gorst are barely taken. Yeah, Vlad is just too slow on foot. Foot characters have had their time, and it's past. They've been getting nerfed, so they can't just avoid damage, getting knocked over all the time, which I think is appropriate, because it was the most obnoxious thing in the world. Having some super badass monster, like, just not able to finish off these characters that are literally just rolling around on the ground like 5-year-olds, seemingly. You know, they'd fall over and they'd start crying and everybody'd feel bad for them and stop hitting them. I don't think that's happening in the Warhammer universe. Pretty sure a Bloodthirster seeing somebody laying on the ground is just going to turn them into jelly. I'm happy for the foot character nerfs, personally. Yeah, Gorst is probably... Would you say Gorst is the worst one, all you Vampire Counts mains? I'm really curious what their worst Legendary Lord is. It's gotta be Vlad or Gorst. There's no way that this Corpse Cart is ever going to be able to get into a position where it can set up the Mortis engine and then also do all the healing. I feel like people will just completely avoid any Helm and Gorst positions. And he's so slow, too. He's like 23 speed because he's on that Corpse Cart. So, if things aren't near him, he can't even use his magic all that well. Anyways, let's get... How much time we got? We can do like 2 more replays, and then I think I'll work through the remaining ones. And see if there's any that are worth casting. Let's actually see about some Ogre Kingdoms action here with the one and only Grease's Goldtooth. And I have a feeling that the Dark Elves already have a rough time with the Ogre Kingdoms, because Ogres actually have good missiles to counter against stuff like repeater crossbows. Even the Scourge-Runner chariots are vulnerable to counterfire from the Ogre Kingdoms. Against Greases, they'll have a better time. There's also a lot of heals that the Ogres can throw out, which Dark Elves hate having to deal with, because Dark Elves are fairly squishy across the board. They have very low HP on most of their units. 6,900 on a frontline unit is absolutely atrocious. Units in this same cost class as the Black Ark Corsairs will have closer to what? I mean, Forsaken are pretty squishy, and they have 8,000 HP. And then other mainline infantry units, such as Marauders and Bloodletters, they've got a lot more HP than these guys. Bloodletters have like 8,800 or whatever. Maybe they're at 8,000 too. Can't remember what it is exactly. But long story short, heal magic against the Dark Elves can give you the sustainability to just outlast them, to where they are not able to continue scrapping effectively against you, and then you can just kind of run roughshod over their remains and then bring up all your missiles behind it. Leadbelchers are going to absolutely clown on this Dark Elf army, I'm afraid. There's really nothing that can contend with them right now. These Shades need to be motoring forward as quickly as possible to countershoot, or you need to go for a full retreat, because look at those Corsairs. Almost half their HP gone on these guys. This unit doing a little better, but the Collateral is actually making contact with the Shades, who have lost 10 models from one volley that wasn't even aimed at them. Leadbelchers may have lost missile penetration, but they're not any less busted. I mean, they are just an obscenely powerful unit. Shades reveal themselves by opening fire. Just because you have stalk doesn't mean that you stay invisible while you shoot. That's a totally separate skill. And they're shooting at Noblars, which is probably the worst thing they could be targeting right now. I mean, they are a very expensive missile unit. And, you hate to see them get this horribly outranged, man. Fate of Buna on the Leadbelchers right now. What the hell is this? Oh, Greasus, is buffing up their leadership a little bit, actually. He's just at the range for the radius to be hitting them. It's a big radius. 55 meters is the gold standard right now for active buffs, or passive buffs, I should say. Active is, you know, something that you click on. This just hits everything in the area and is always buffing them up. Over Tyrant's Crown, smaller radius, but is a decent little imbuement of ITP and ward save. You can see the Iron Guts and the Butcher with the support of some Noblars brutalizing the Black Corsairs. Lokir is going to get ignored. There's no reason to fight him. He is not really going to be up for much, I would say. I think Lokir on a Dragon would actually, unironically, be better here. It wouldn't be easy for him, but at the very least, you could have something big and scary with a lot of mass to potentially dive bomb the Lead Belchers. You get a vicious volley from the Shades. Shades finally getting something done here. Mournfang Cavalry down to about half their HP, but they do close the gap quickly enough that they should keep this Shade offline. Iron Guts following up on the other with the assistance of Pigback Riders. Coldwood Knights coming in to help out, but the Pigback Riders will make this a very complicated fight for them. You got Blood Vultures collapsing on the rear too. This is a very dead unit. No way these Cold Ones are going to be able to survive this. There's just not enough support for them. Whereas the Ogre Kingdoms almost always are having a unit underneath their big single entities and monstrous units. Not so for the Dark Elves. Dark Elves are wanting to play a more kite-focused build, and I think that their priorities are just a little out of whack here. If you've got all those Shades and they've got Vanguard deployment, I actually think it wouldn't be a bad idea to push through onto the number 3 and cap this objective and then retreat into the woods and see what the Ogre Kingdoms do from there. Because the Ogres don't have anything that's going to keep their Bulls and Iron Guts from being debuffed fighting in the trees. And with all of this infantry and your spears and whatnot, you could definitely hide out in there pretty effectively. Shira Yuki is keeping a reasonably close game going here. But the issue is that this Butcher with the Troll Guts is just going to be popping that on whatever important unit is in the most danger right now. So one Mournfang Cav is down, but another great weapon comes out as a replacement. Noblars are pretty uniformly beat up right now. The Pigback Riders, though, are looking much healthier, which is way more important, honestly. The Noblars are just, you know, crap house units that you just run in to let get slaughtered, and the Pigbacks are a little bit more of a anti-large finesse piece. You know, they have fairly decent stats for such a low-tier unit, thanks to Uncanny Coordination. It's just a massive buff to leadership and melee defense. They end up being obnoxiously difficult to kill, just because they hold for way longer than you might otherwise expect. And look at them crushing the Dread Spears right now. Oh, the Dread Spears are trying to push past them. At least they were initially. See a bunch of them trickling over here, off to the side. All these units that are trying to push through are just taking free damage from the Pigback Riders as they pass by. Some of them are fighting back, but the Pigbacks got a way better charge off, and I think that they're just going to end up outgrinding those Dread Spears. And it's kind of funny, Pigback Riders and the Dread Spears are units in a fairly similar price range with fairly similar stats. It's just that, I don't know, man. Something about Pigback Riders just feels a little bit off in terms of how well they perform, and I think it does still have to do with the fact that they don't get knocked over. While the Dread Spears can get knocked on their ass, Pigback Riders don't have a fall down animation, so they're always doing damage. And there's nothing to ever really stop them from doing so. I think that tends to be why they outperform other spear units in a similar price point. Even if they ostensibly have worse stats than a Dread Spirit base, not a whole lot more to really sell them on. Mornfang Cav in the back line here with some Ogre Bulls taking down the Cold One Knights. Very nice focus from Chim on taking down all of the Cold One units that have come out. They really haven't had much of an opportunity to set up and do much of anything. Every time they come out onto the field, there's a Mornfang Cavalry by them, there's multiple Iron Guts running them down, there's Pigback Riders and Blood Vultures on their back. All kinds of nastiness that they just aren't able to contend with on an individual basis. Or on an individual basis when they're outnumbered, for sure, at the very least. Dread Spear is going to get absolutely annihilated by the Lead Belchers. This is the worst possible position to be in against Ogre Kingdoms. You're pressed back, they are capping all the objectives, you don't have a lot of mobility left, they have healthy Lead Belchers, and a ton of protection for them. And then you have to bring out all your infantry. Because otherwise, what's the point of bringing out mobility when they're just going to get swarmed out like we've been seeing? Dark Riders running around to get a Fate of Buna on the Ogre Bulls. This Fate of Buna is just not working. The reason that Fate of Buna should not be brought here is because it loses damage when the units have fewer than 25 models, and that's all of the important units for the Ogre Kingdoms. You'd honestly be better off going for like a leadership debuffing strategy. Bring like Doom and Darkness and Aspect of the Dread Knight and just try and terror bomb all the positions of the Ogre Kingdoms units. Because Ogre Kingdoms are a very aggressive faction, but they've got pretty low leadership, even on the Mornfangs. You can see 60 leadership is fine. I mean, it's respectable. But once leadership debuffing starts stacking on top of these guys, if they're isolated, or if you just have a decent amount of damage going in against them, with stuff like Doom and Darkness being dropped on their head and potential terror routes that can go down on these guys who don't have ITP, that's where I think you can have a little bit more success. Because Buna is not ever going to work. It just isn't good enough for this matchup. Avoid it. I'm sure there's other lores that you could take as the Dark Elves as well. Soul Stealer wouldn't be bad. I mean, you know Greasus is going to be here, right? If you're, you know, paying any attention to the bracket, and I'm pretty sure all the lords got announced for everybody as well, unless Twist randomized it. Hard to say what exactly would be the best option. Ogre Kingdoms just are fairly resilient to spellcasting in general because their unit sizes are just so funky that it's kind of hard to find efficient spells against them. That's why I'm recommending the leadership debuffing spells and whatnot. Because then you're not losing damage efficiency, and you're really more looking for like decisive engagements where you can get rear charges off. It's way better. Cold One Knight's getting deleted here, and they're fighting dual weapon bulls. I don't know what that's about, but maybe it's that charge bonus, man, and Greasus is in here. He's got 1,700 value? Question mark. How the hell did Greasus do this well? Yo, is the big man... Okay, maybe the big man is good. And this monstrous impact is super ridiculous. It's what, 60% speed? Yeah, that's a lot of speed to be losing if he actually makes contact with you. Maybe. This is a little bit of an unrepresentative game of Greasus's power level generally. I mean, there's a very off-meta lord on the other side as well, and this guy's on foot too. Lokir is not a character that you want to be using against the Ogre Kingdoms usually. I think on the Dragon he would have been a little bit more effective. And if you go for Lokir on the Dragon, he's got an item that lowers leadership, plus he's causing fear, and he's got the terror packed in with him. And then you can go for the cheap caster with the Doom and Darkness, and I think you're talking about something that could go into the Ogres with some kind of success. You have to play an insanely cagey game to do it, but maybe. That's my best bet on what would be feasible. So what are your other spell options? You could do Burning Head to clear out Noblars. That'd be okay. Like I said, Soul Stealer wouldn't be bad. It does damage and it heals. Doombolt's banned, which is unfortunate because it is really strong right now. Blade Wind's not that great. Word of Pain is just weird. It's super awkward to use. Chill Wind's not bad either. It does imbue Frostbite, and it can do good damage to Noblars. It's just the problem that you have to deal with the Ogre Bulls at some point. There's just nothing in that spell kit that does anything. Just get rid of all that. Get around a Darkseed. Life Leeching is actually pretty good. I guess you just go with her in reserve and bring her out as soon as possible. Maybe. You could bring the Darkstar Cloak if you wanted to. It's only 100 gold. It does give you power recharge, which is nice. These spells are cheap, though. You don't really need it for them. And the Overcast is an AoE. It's only 10 WOM, which isn't too much of an investment. Need the money for Dragon Boy here. So you bring the Kraken's Helm and you bring Merciless Slaver and you call it a day. I mean, 2,400 is a pretty big commitment to a character on a dragon who doesn't also cast spells, but he does have a passive heal. He does have this -6 leadership. You gotta factor in the fear he causes. And then you've got the -16 from Doom and Darkness, and that's, what? 16 plus 14... So yeah, I mean, 30 leadership being lost. That's definitely within the Terror Route range. And then you can factor in maybe some flanks and rear charges that will lower leadership even more. Vlad is sad. Painfully Mediocre is a really good way to label the Corsairs. Yeah, Chim, I'm very impressed with the value on our big greasy boy there. Definitely not what I was expecting at all. I did not think he was going to be functional in any real way. I thought you would win despite of Greasus, and there you actually won with him, you know. Not laughing at him, laughing with him this time. Which is pretty nice. He's been terrible for too long. I still think they should roll back to the patch where he had 400 speed, though. That was peak Greasus. 400 speed Greasus was beautiful, and I miss him. Doombolt should be unbanned just to kill Slaughtermasters. Yeah, Spirit Leech is also pretty good. You can always do that. And yeah, the fire magic to remove Nobblers. Sounds about right. Yeah, because nothing else is really going to work. Like, Beasts is for factions that have more numbers and are more cav reliant. That's what Flock of Doom is good against. Amber's Spear doesn't have penetration, or I'd say it might be okay. Pan's Pelt is an okay buff, but really not enough. Curse of Honor here is weird. It's only good against Khorne, really. Yeah, whatever. And then Shadows is a lot like the Lore of Beasts in a lot of ways. It's got a few things in here that could be okay against Ogres. Like Enfeebling Foe is an alright spell. I really like Enfeebling Foe. I know a lot of people don't, but I've found a lot of success with it on Malagor especially. It's really good for helping Synagor's trade. I don't know how it is on other factions, but certainly helps Beastmen out a lot. Alright guys, we got one more. Let's make it count. Let's see who the hell we should be playing. God, this game is absolutely nuts. I still can't believe that Charix won those 2 games that he did. The quality of competition in this tournament was absolutely incredible. Everybody played great, even the people who lost in round 1. Sometimes you just get unlucky. Your builds don't quite work. But they put up a good fight despite it all. Where the hell are we going? Let's watch some Tomb Kings and Wood Elves. What the hell is this? Oh, did Arrow of Kurnus get taken off the bans or restrictions list? Maybe it just wasn't for this tournament. I mean, shit, if it's not limited, you might as well bring double Arrow. Arrow of Kurnus is a great item, huge damage potential. It's got some counterplay. I've actually found that if you run your characters around in cavalry units, Arrow of Kurnus does not have great missile penetration against cav. So you can sit your lord in the middle of cavalry, or just sit him behind like a big single entity, and Arrow of Kurnus will have a hard time hitting him. The Hyrule Titan might actually be a good shot blocker here for Arkin, which would be pretty hilarious. We'll see how Gepard plays this. Drycha is moving up. We get the Arrow of Kurnus going down on the Carrion of all things, which is an interesting choice. I would guess that that was a misclick or something. I don't think it's worth hitting those guys. Oh, look at the Horse Archers. Oh no, the Waystalker. Horrible damage going down on this guy. 800 health lost in one volley. Low armor on these dudes. They don't have a lot of HP. So this is kind of what you want to do. Either you get missiles to shoot these guys early and chip them down, or the other way to kill the Waystalkers is you also bring some combat characters. For Khorne, that would be like cultists or something, and they just run in and just butcher these Waystalkers, because they're okay in melee, but the low armor and HP is the real issue for them. The melee defense is respectable at 45, but it's definitely enough to leave them at a disadvantage against stronger, more melee-oriented characters. Waystalkers get their value by using all of their arrows of Kurnus, and then using all of this ammo. You know, they got quite a bit, and they fire fairly fast, so they can actually rack up like 400 or 500 value with just their ammo, and then they use Arrow of Kurnus to get like another 400, 500, 600 even. And, you know, then they're more than paying for themselves, and then whatever they can do in melee, if you don't unsummon them. Most people just unsummon those guys when they're out of abilities. Hyrule Titan waddling its way forward. Wraith's the Frozen Heart, waiting in the wings. You got Starfire Shafts, lots of Glade Guard. A filthy Shinspurt and Gaze in the flank gets this Hyrule Titan 300 value. Oh my god, it nuked the Glade Guard there. So one Glade Guard on the run. Shame it's not the Starfire Shaft, but Wood Elves actually have a great engagement in the backline here, outside of their Glade Guards going down. They're killing the Carrion fairly effectively, keeping most of their missiles safe. This Glade Guard is pushed a little too far forward and is well within the hazard distance of the Skeleton Horse Archers. And Horse Archers are way cheaper than a Glade Guard, and they have really good way to fire when there's 3 of them in the same area. Look at the damage that they throw down. Glade Guard broken here, both of them running. Dryads and the Wild Riders in a little bit of trouble too. Wild Riders do have Fizz Res, but they don't have a shield here. They're not going to want to chase these guys. But a good ambush summon. One Horse Archer caught by the Wild Riders as they come out of deployment. Drycha is very beat up. Oh my god, the Hyrule Titan is brutalizing Drycha in the pit fight here. Run away, girl. What are you doing? Our evil Wood Nymph is making a massive mistake standing in this fight right now. She is actually routing, which is really painful because she's taken enough damage to fully charge Fanatical Resolve here, which does give some massive buffs to everything around her. Look at the melee attack on the Firebark Elders, for example. Suddenly looking like a world-class unit with that 51 down to 48 melee attack now, with them being tired. Starfire Shaft's going to be collapsed on by the Ushabti summon. This Ushabti summon, the army ability, is absolutely filthy. Takes a long time to come out, but being able to summon it anywhere on the battlefield is filthy because they are quick, they do a lot of damage. I very regularly see this army summon Ushabti get almost a full like 900 value from like a standard Ushabti summon. It can be very brutal. Higher Titan with a decent shims there, actually helping break the leadership on the Glade Guard. Ushabti closed the gap, and they're really starting to tear this unit up as it's trying to retreat. Horse Archers trying to get away from the Wild Riders, a little fruitless, probably not going to succeed there. Eyes of the Desert in an awful position. Wild Riders from both sides, they will be able to poke against these guys fairly effectively. Wild Riders have awful melee defense, and this is a situation where the low melee attack is just enough to get around that, and the bonus versus large is going to be very critical for helping wear this unit down. Good summon of Skeleton Horsemen to assist there. Good buffer piece and one Wild Rider going down for all of the effort that they put in there. Is rough, man. Wild Riders over here occupied by the Ushabti, and the Glade Guard are going to be able to rally. It's going to be really close, though. They're very beat up. 50 models, though, and they do have the AP and magic damage. They're going to be important to use against this Higher Titan. The Wood Elves have just not got any momentum right now. They're pressed back pretty badly. The Higher Titan is just farming them in the middle here. It is doing a great job against the Firebark Elders, too. Man, oh man. Honestly, Gepard is making the Higher Titans look a lot better than they are. They're not a terrible unit, the Higher Titans, but they just are, like I said, they're brutally slow at 32 base speed. Once they get tired and then they get any kind of debuffs on them, they're basically an immobile platform for their bound spells. Which does make them a little bit mediocre. Even in the best of circumstances, which is kind of what they have now. Horse Archers are poking away at the Wild Riders. Good collapse from the flank with the Eyes of the Desert, who don't have a lot of value, but they're doing respectably. They've got all 16 models. Their weight of fire will be very indispensable for finishing up any units that are stuck out in the open field and aren't prepared for these guys popping up out of stalk, because the stalk on these dudes is indispensable. They're very short range, so they're, you know, an ambush unit. One of the more fair, I would say Sepulchral Stalkers are an example of a unit that can look absolutely broken at peak efficiency, but using them can be a little bit of a tricky pickle because of the lack of range on them and some of their vulnerabilities in melee. You just kind of jump on them as quickly as possible in most matchups and try to kill them with some decent AP. It's usually pretty doable. Massive breaks in the middle. Terror routes on the entire army, and a lot of these units... Sorry, leadership also tanks at the same time, and are going to just get cleaned up there. I think that's broken Tom's back. The Wild Riders have been, you know, they've been okay, but there's just a lot of annoying units out here on the field for the Tomb Kings that they keep having to just face check, you know? I mean, the last thing you want for a unit with 40 armor is to be getting poked down by Skeleton Horse Archers or having to, like, just rush up into this halberd unit that's got magic damage. Like, you know, they may not be able to rip you to pieces in melee, but they still do steady and consistent damage that can be a little overwhelming for these very low armor mobile cavalry pieces. Wild Hunters of Kurnus are on the field, but they don't have a lot of targets. And Drycha is back out and dying immediately again. She gets slapped up by the missiles from the Sepulchral Stalkers. Does drop her Malevolent Dryad summon in a really good spot. Oh, and you can see the summon value from the first time around. That's kind of cool. So they got 350 value the first time. Summons in general tend to be pretty effective. The Skaven summons are pretty awful, but for a faction that has like decent leadership on the units that they're bringing out, like Khorne and the Chaos factions with their demon summons from the Cultists, the Malevolent Dryads from Drycha, that Ushabti summon for the Tomb Kings, you know. I mean, this was one of the less effective Ushabti summons I've seen, but even here it was able to affect a very important break on the Starfire Shafts. And the Starfire Shafts just never got set up in time. The Higher Titan would have been the perfect target, but they spent a lot of this game running away. And this thing was able to get 1,500 value in the meantime. Spirit Leech from the Higher Titan, I think. Unless it's from Arkan. I don't actually know. He's not close enough to get the spell intensity, so it could be either or. Regardless, double Spirit Leech on Drycha, she's getting really low again. Fanatical Resolve fully charged up, but she's all alone. The cheese stands alone, and it's not particularly good cheese either. It's like smelly blue cottage cheese, trying to persevere against the luscious and sumptuous Lacy Swiss of the Tomb Kings, I would say. Kind of ironic because of the color of the flag. I just really want some. I just want something cheesy and delicious right now. Got the Chosen the Gods I didn't pay a lot of attention to, but 1,600 value on them. They did pretty well. Wild Riders were very ineffective this game. They just never got an opportunity to get any kind of uptrades. That cheap Skirmish Cav ended up being a big nightmare. Not super surprised. Pretty good value on all the Horse Archers. Most of them paid off. One of them didn't quite, but was still fairly close to rounding it out. 639 and 724 on this other one is pretty great. Pirate Titan almost paid for itself. That's about as good of a performance as you're ever going to see out of this thing, probably. 1,800 on Arkan. He's been a nightmare with those Spirit Leeches. He's just so annoying. Especially with the boosted damage from being by this Titan. Has actually netted him some pretty substantial extra value, I think. Sepulchral Stalkers didn't get tremendous value, but they were very healthy, so they had plenty of room. Tomb Guard just locked down the point in the late game. Nice to have one Tomb Guard. I do appreciate mixing one in there. I didn't cast you in Charix. I'm saving that one, boss. That's going to be one of the ones that I'm probably going to cast that separately, because I'm sure that's just an absolutely back and forth slugfest. I can't imagine it being any other way based on the other Charix games we saw. And I mean, you won the tournament. So that's like a heavyweight fight that I'd like to get an opportunity for later on. And I'm also pretty tired. I'm flagging in energy. I'd like to give you all the best possible show. So I think I'm going to call it here. We had a great tournament, man. Went by nice and quick. I have a few more that I'll go through later on. But I'm going to call it here. And I really appreciate the format twist. It was amazing. Very unique tournament, and I'm looking forward to the next one, dude. Let me know when you're gonna host it, and I'll cast it again. Super GG's, congrats to Boss for winning the tournament. And thank you everybody else for participating. We had a lot of really great games. Only a couple of people got screwed by matchups. That was our first one with the Chaos Dowie versus Nurgle, and then I mean Skaven versus Norska is pretty atrocious as well, but that was really about it. Everybody else had pretty good games. So, till next time, guys. Y'all take care. Peace out. Take care of yourselves.